Chapter 1349. Boom. A 1-mile-long golden palm came crashing down from the sky towards sacred flame supremacy as if it was covering the sky. Kong Tichu. Heavenly Fire 9 Suns. Reverend Holy Flame's eyes nearly popped out of their sockets as he howled in fear. His dantian rumbled and trembled as an endless amount of fire elemental Zhen Yuan gushed out from his gold core. 9 blazing red suns appeared behind his back, blazing with raging flames that illuminated the entire sky. These grand Sundharma images were created by him risking his life to rush out of the dimensional barrier and into the deep void to collect a kind of eternal star fire called 9 Suns Blazing Fire, which he refined with his own blood essence for 100 years. The fire of 9 suns was ranked 12th among the heavenly fire in the cultivation world and was much more powerful than the red lotus earth fire in Fire Beacon City. But then, under Jiang Tian's hand, the 9 suns exploded. The 9 blazing suns exploded like fireworks. The scattered flames burned holes in the earth and cracked the mountain rocks. How is that possible? It's a metal elemental divine power, but it's not afraid of the heavenly fire 9 suns. Amid his miserable and despairing cries, Venerable Holy Fire was forcefully crushed by the palm strike. Even his gold core had cracked and collapsed, and it was devoured by Jiang Tian's Taotai into the divine disk. The entire place went silent. Everyone's hearts were pounding and their bodies trembled. What Jiang Tian was using was the simplest essence condensation weapon, which was on the same level as the wind blades. He didn't even activate his golden core. He was only using the means and dharma formulations of foundation establishment cultivators. It was simple and crude. But in Jiang Tian's hands, it exploded with unparalleled destructive power. With a simple slap, he killed a nascent soul cultivator who was in control of a mystical flame. This was simply like the biggest joke in the world. No one would dare to believe it even if it was told. It could be seen how terrifying Jiang Taichu's strength was. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Then, Jiang Tian flicked his fingers expressionlessly. His golden finger aura pierced through the sky. Amidst the wails of despair and begging for mercy, a bloody mist bloomed in the air like flowers. White brain matter and broken bones flew everywhere and landed on the crimson-red ground. It was a ghastly sight. In a blink, all the envoys of the Jade Lake, including the Golden Core cultivators and the Foundation Establishment cultivators, were killed. There was a bone-chilling silence. Only the sound of the wind was heard. No one dared to say a word. They seemed to be able to hear each other's heavy breathing and heartbeats. Only Zhang Qianlei knelt down in the direction of the thunder-controlling sect and solemnly kowtowed 3 times and 9 times. Senior Tang Yuan, did you see that? Cultivator Tai Chu has avenged you. You didn't shed your blood for earth in vain. You didn't die for nothing. Alas, if Jiang Taichu had come earlier, we wouldn't have had to endure humiliation and become slaves. Lei Sen and Xin Jiuling also sighed deeply. Their faces were full of shame as they knelt behind Zhang Qianlei and kowtowed. Huang Qianzhong, Jiang Tian's gaze suddenly landed on the ashen-faced Huang Qianzhong and said calmly, "You betrayed us and destroyed the peace agreement between the 2 worlds. You colluded with the cultivators of the Jade Lake and set me up. Now, you have to give me an explanation." Hearing that, Huang Qianzhong's body trembled and his pale face became even paler. His body, which used to be majestic, had become hunched. He lowered his arrogant head and said bitterly, "I'm sorry." Fine. Who would have thought that I, Huang Qianzhong, had always thought that my foresight was unique, but this time I was wrong. He actually offended a true god. When Crown Prince Huangqi and the others heard this, they all revealed sorrowful expressions and their bodies trembled slightly. Jiang Tian was able to withstand the explosion of a nascent soul cultivator, which meant that he could withstand the attack of a soul formation cultivator. Once a cultivator reached the soul formation level, his primordial spirit would be placed in the void and he would be immortal. He would abandon the low-level spirit stones and spirit herbs and absorb the energy of the universe. He would be a god in the human world and a divine entity. He was also called a heavenly master, deity, or divine master. At this moment, he called Jiang Tian a real entity. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that Jiang Tian was a real entity in terms of strength. My friend Tai Chu, the Huang family is willing to admit defeat. I, Huang Qianzhong, deserve to die. I only hope that Senior Tai Chu can leave some descendants of the Huang family for the sake of the old man who did shelter the refugees of the planet Tianqing. Huang Qianzhong bowed deeply, his body trembling as he begged sincerely, "Please forgive me." Besides, the alliance with the Jade Lake has nothing to do with the leaders of the other sects and cities. My friend Tai Chu, please let them live. Father. Prince Huang Qi and the others were sad, but they didn't dare to speak loudly. Huang Qianzhong didn't care about them. Since he rose to power, he had swept away the strong and killed countless people. His hands were stained with blood, and he walked to the top by stepping on piles of bones. Among the people he killed, there were even his own brothers and sisters. He knew that the cultivation world was cruel and ruthless. From the day he stepped on the path of cultivation, he was prepared to die an unnatural death. However, he did not expect that this day would come so quickly and that he would fail so miserably. Huang Qianzhong's eyes were filled with despair as he gently sighed. He took out a scarlet seal from his interspatial ring and offered it to Huang Qianzhong with both hands. This is the imperial seal of the Qia world. Since the beginning of interstellar wandering, it represents the highest power in this world. No cultivator or mortal dares to disobey it. Now I give it to the Tai Chu Dominator. From now on, this world belongs to the Tai Chu Dominator. Looking at the big seal, everyone's hearts jumped. In fact, this seal was not only the symbol of the highest power, but also the array pestle that activated the gravity simulation, teleportation, spirit gathering, killing, and many other arrays of the Qia world. Controlling the formation pestle in the shape of a large seal was equivalent to controlling the entire world. Life and death were in one's hands, and no one dared to rebel. Not enough. Unexpectedly, Jiang Tian shook his head. Tai Chu Sect Master, do you want to destroy the Qia world? Huang Qianzhong seemed to have expected this. He wasn't surprised, but his expression seemed to have deteriorated. I, Kong Tai Chu, may kill freely, but I don't kill the innocent. Jiang Tian said indifferently. Star World once helped the Crimson Stone sect and the Huang family, but the Huang family betrayed them. Therefore, I won't leave a single one of your Huang family alive. As he spoke, Jiang Tian suddenly took out Absolute Heaven Sword and swung it. Crack! It was as though a huge bolt of lightning had struck the void. Huang Qianzhong, Crown Prince Huang Qi, and the many descendants of the Huang family were all killed. Their bodies were all cut to pieces. All the golden cores were taken back by Jiang Tian. After today, the Huang family and even the Crimson Stone sect that had dominated this world for 1,000 years would be completely removed from the Qia world. Huang Qianzhong's body was broken, but he was a golden core expert after all. He was still alive. It's over. The Huang family is finished in my hands. I'm a sinner. Seeing this, his face was filled with despair and pain. His body trembled, and hot tears rolled down his face. Huang Qianzhong, it's not like you said, that only the Huang family is my enemy. In fact, at least half of the sects in this world have joined the Jade Lake world and tried to encroach on my territory. I only killed the main culprits like their sect masters as punishment. Jiang Tian said indifferently. Then he smashed Huang Qianzhong into dust, and even his spirit was destroyed. Soaring Feather Sect, Blue Moon Sect, Desolate Wood Sect, Iron Fist Sect, Zhang Qianlei, Lei Sen, and Shun Jiuling named 7 or 8 sects and important people in a row. They all had no integrity and joined the Jade Lake world without a fight. Tai Chu Sect Master, please spare us. We were forced to do this. Tai Chu Sect Master, we didn't want to be your enemy. These sect masters were all well-known figures in this world. They were powerful and powerful. If they stomped their feet, the entire Qi world would tremble. But at this moment, under Jiang Tian's peerless ferocious might and the threat of death, all of them knelt down successively and kowtowed like they were pounding garlic. Some of them even had their true essence become unstable and pissed their pants in terror. At this moment, their hearts were filled with regret. They all thought that the Jade Lake could destroy the stellar sky domain as easily as cutting vegetables. After all, the Jade Lake was the most powerful third-grade world with nascent soul realm cultivators. They never thought that Jiang Tian was so powerful that they would end up in such a miserable state. These small fries couldn't even withstand a single blow. Jiang Tian didn't even need to do anything. Die! Under Jiang Tian's gaze, Bai Zhe rushed up and unleashed his terrifying Dharma idol. With a punch and a kick, he smashed them into dust. Blood dyed the ground red. Corpses and bones were strewn everywhere. Blood qi surged into the sky like smoke. The smell of blood was pungent. At this moment, all the qi cultivators were pale. They were trembling in fear as if they had lost their parents. They knelt on the ground obediently and lowered their arrogant heads. They didn't even dare to look at Jiang Tian. He didn't know when a calamity would befall him and he would die an unnatural death. Chapter 1350. Jiang Tian floated to the ground with his hands behind his back and said slowly, "I'm sorry." He slowly said, "I came here to guard Heavenly Star Realm and establish a divine soul contract with all of you. Together, we will resist the tyranny of the ruins of immortality and Jade Lake. Perhaps in your eyes, the ruins of immortality and Jade Lake are powerful and unshakable. But today, you have all seen that although I, Kang Teichu, only have a golden core cultivation, I can kill nascent soul cultivators with ease. What fellow Taoist absolute beginning says is true." Everyone nodded, sincerely convinced. If Jiang Tian had said this before, he would have been met with endless ridicule from the Red Wild World. Many cultivators would have scoffed at him. "You think we can establish a divine soul contract just because you say so? You think we can resist the ruins of immortality just because you say so? Based on what? What qualifications do you have?" But now, things were different. Jiang Tian had already killed 4 nascent soul old ancestors. In particular, when he detonated Duanmu Guang's nascent soul, he revealed a strength comparable to an Empyrean at divine transformation. This caused everyone to believe that Jiang Tian had the strength to contend with the Jade Lake world. "Of course, as long as you sign a divine soul contract with me, you will be my disciples. I will not treat you badly. I will pass on your transcendent cultivation methods and supernatural abilities, and even control sealing techniques, forbidden domains, and other space techniques. These will be your capital to resist the Jade Lake world." As Jiang Tian spoke, many cultivators began to stir. After all, Jiang Tian had reached the peak at such a young age. The supernatural abilities, cultivation methods, alchemy techniques, array formations, and so on, he could be said to be heaven-shaking and earth-shattering. There were even true immortal cultivation methods. In fact, this was true. Jiang Tian's Wizard and True Dragon were not to be trifled with. If they followed Jiang Tian, even if they could only learn bits and pieces, it would be enough for them to reach heights they couldn't even imagine before. Moreover, the remaining cultivators had no enmity with Jiang Tian. If they took this opportunity to submit to Jiang Tian, it could be said to be killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Absolute beginning ruler wants to teach us the art of controlling space origin energy? Suddenly, Lei Sun reacted and exclaimed. To a cultivator, the most difficult thing to cultivate was not Dharma form, divine ability, Qi weapon, or the 5 elements divine ability. Instead, it was the ability to manipulate the vital Qi of heaven and earth and use it to control space. The outstanding cultivators of the Golden Core stage could restrict and seal, which was known as control. The nascent soul stage was a forbidden area, and the divinity stage was a stronger and more advanced area. Not to mention the forbidden domain and the domain, just the simplest control and suppression. Once it is formed, the natural energy within a radius of 1,000 feet will be at my disposal, and I will be able to seal and suppress the enemy into an iron plate. Even if you had thousands of divine abilities and secret techniques, you wouldn't be able to use them. You would be like a fish on a chopping board, waiting to be slaughtered. Of course, in reality, control, restriction, sealing, and even forbidden regions couldn't be considered to have truly grasped the space laws. Instead, they borrowed the heaven and earth yuan qi to mobilize the power of space, and what they formed could only be considered a pseudo-domain. However, this was already an invincible and heaven-defying method to defeat the enemy. Not to mention the Chi-Yi, even in the Jade Pool, Dragon Gate, and other level 3 worlds, it had always been a top-notch cultivation method. It was a secret that was never passed on. Jiang Tian actually said that he was going to teach them these things. How could they not be shocked? That's right. As long as you're willing to pledge allegiance to me and fight side by side against the invaders of the Jade Pool deity ruins, what's the point of teaching you these things? Jiang Tian said calmly. The art of controlling the heaven and earth Yuan Qi was a supreme secret technique for them, just like a divine art. However, Jiang Tian knew at least 800 if not 1,000. For Jiang Tian, it was just the most basic of the basics. So what if Jiang Tian taught them some shallow and low-level cultivation methods? This time, the leaders of the various sects were astounded. Even Shun Jiuling, who had always been afraid of the Jade Pool, was ecstatic. His blood was boiling as he said excitedly, "Good, good, good. With the help of such a divine art, we really don't need to be afraid of the Jade Pool. Yeah, who says we're inferior to the Jade Pool? As long as we cultivate diligently, we might be able to fight against them." The Taichu Dominator is so generous. No wonder the cultivators of Planet Heavenly Star follow him everywhere. That's right, we'd rather die than become slaves of a conquered country. Many cultivators were overjoyed, and their spirits were lifted. After the battle in the warm Jade-blessed land, Jiang Tian had made a divine soul contract with everyone, and sent them a few kinds of earth and fire element techniques. After that, he had ordered everyone to leave. However, the impact of this battle had just started to spread out. For 1,000 years, this world belonged to the Crimson Stone sect and the Huang family. The Huang family had been in this world for 1,000 years. They had deep roots and connections in all directions. The top 10 sects all had deep relationships with him and listened to his orders. Needless to say, there was also the massive Crimson Radiance Empire, numerous mundane cities, and cultivation clans. It could be said to be massive and complicated to the extreme. When the news spread, the entire Crimson Field was shocked. Many people couldn't believe it, as if the sky had collapsed. After all, those who watched the battle in warm Jade-blessed land were the leaders and elites of the major sections. However, many cultivators and even the entire mortal world didn't go to watch. When they heard the news, many people were completely shocked. Emperor Qianzhong is dead? How is that possible? Nothing is impossible. My master saw it with his own eyes. Even Red Cloud Ancestor and Crown Prince Huang Qi were killed by Kang Teichu. The entire bloodline of the Huang family will be annihilated. Red Cloud Ancestor, that's a nascent soul ancestor. I don't care if you believe it or not. I don't believe it. That's right. The Red Cloud Ancestor was undefeated in 10,000 battles. He was a high and mighty existence. He was like a living immortal. How could anyone kill him? I don't believe it either. Many people couldn't accept it when they heard it at first. They didn't believe it at all. In the past, Huang Qianzhong and Red Cloud Ancestor were like gods in their hearts. But now, they died in the hands of an ant from Earth. It was like a joke. There were even old cultivators who shouted angrily, saying that the person who sent the news had evil intentions and wanted to overthrow the order and create internal strife. I'll kill him. But then, more and more witnesses sent news. There were even sect masters of major sects who watched the battle that night who testified. When all of this was confirmed, everyone was stunned. Everyone was dumbstruck, as if they were grieving for their parents. A golden core cultivator killing a nascent soul cultivator? Has there ever been such a precedent in the past? In that case, from now on, won't the Earth domain and the Stellar Sky domain be riding on our heads and doing whatever they want? Countless people beat their chests and stomped their feet. How can the Stellar Sky field invade us? I don't believe it. I'm going to take revenge on that emperor killer. But then, the details of the death of Shin Jingjing, Hu Shi and Duanmu Guang, the 3 heavenly lords from the Jade Lake, were also spread. In an instant, everyone shut their mouths and gave up on the topic. Even Emperor Qin Qing isn't that powerful. I heard that when he had just reached the golden core level, he had challenged a nascent soul cultivator in his family, but it was a draw. Does this mean that Kang Taechu is more talented than Emperor Qin? Many people gasped. The Heavenly Lord of the Jade Lake. A Heavenly Lord could control the world and create a forbidden region. The more powerful one's cultivation was, the more he understood the power of the world and what the Heavenly Lord meant. A Heavenly Lord could replace the Heavenly Lord with his own heart and enforce justice on behalf of the heavens. He could lift up the sky with one hand. Moreover, they were 3 heaven monarchs from the Jade Lake, but they were all killed by Jiang Taichu. If he wasn't a monster, then what was? Then, the absolute beginning ruler gave the Imperial Thunder sect a set of the 5-element thunder punishment art. Without the need to use the Thunderstrike stone, it can create lightning in the void and kill opponents of a higher level. It is invincible and can be called an immortal cultivation art. We are grateful for the absolute beginning's kindness. The acting sect master of the Imperial Thunder sect, Lei Sen, announced. The Desolate Wood sect was given a set of wood element cultivation art by the absolute beginning ruler. It is a nascent soul cultivation art. The disciples of the Desolate Wood sect will always be loyal to the absolute beginning ruler and will never betray him. The new sect master of the Desolate Wood sect also announced. My Flying Feather sect also supports the Grand Primordium Dominator. The Grand Primordium Dominator is our savior. Whoever dares to betray the Grand Primordium Dominator is an ungrateful person. Go through my Flying Feather sect first, and I'll be the first to not spare him. Then the Flying Feather sect, the Iron Fist sect, the Tsungyue sect and other large and small sects also announced their support for Jiang Tian. All the sect masters showed their support and immediately became Jiang Tian's loyal soldiers. The situation changed without them noticing. Jiang Tian went from being an invader and a king-killer to being the liberator and savior of the Qi world. Especially when they heard that Jiang Tian was handsome and young, many female cultivators wanted to go to the Imperial Thunder sect to ask if Jiang Tian had a partner and if they had the chance to dual cultivate with the absolute beginning ruler. This was Jiang Tian's temperament that had been tempered for tens of thousands of years. The key to the way to control one's subordinates was to use the carrot and stick at the same time. Only by giving them a slap and then a carrot and stick would they be loyal and devoted. Only a soul contract was not enough. The absolute beginning ruler has returned, killed Chen Liuhe, and wiped out the Jade Lake army. The Stellar Sky domain has been liberated. Everyone can go back. When the big black dog ascended to the sky and announced the news, the Stellar Sky domain, the Heavenly Star refugee camp, which had a radius of 10 miles, was deathly silent for a full minute. Then, as if a block of ice had been thrown into a pot of hot oil, it began to boil and burst into jubilation. What did I just hear? The absolute beginning ruler has returned and defeated the Jade Lake army. Liberated. The Stellar Sky domain has been liberated. We can go home. Child, the Jade Lake army has been defeated, and Chen Liuhe is dead. The absolute beginning sect master has avenged you. Many Stellar Sky refugees couldn't believe it at first, but when they came back to their senses, they cried tears of joy and excitement. They cried and laughed, hugged each other, and sang and danced. We thank the absolute beginning ruler for stopping the fall of the heavens and saving the people from the fire and water. Some white-haired old cultivators trembled in the direction of the warm jade-blessed land where Jiang Tian was and kowtowed. They didn't care if Jiang Tian could see them or not. They all kowtowed crazily. We thank the absolute beginning ruler. Then all the Stellar Sky living beings knelt down. Whether they were mortals, cultivators, demons, or humans, they all prostrated themselves on the ground and kowtowed heavily. Their faces were full of reverence and gratitude. Chapter 1351. This was truly an unexpected surprise. They didn't even dare to think about it, because the Jade Lake world was too strong. In their opinion, they couldn't shake it at all and would never be able to take back Star World. They thought that they could only be refugees and die silently in a foreign world without any dignity, never to return to their homeland. But now, Jiang Tian had returned and destroyed the Jade Lake's army as easily as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. He had destroyed everything and helped them take back their ancestral land. Why weren't they grateful and overjoyed? Brother Black, have a bite. Zhao Quan nodded and bowed beside the big black dog. He handed over a sizzling pig dragon thigh and asked with a face full of fear, "He is Kong Techu." "Yes, it's the real deal." The big black dog ate the pig dragon meat and ordered the Crimson Field cultivators to open the teleportation formation and send these refugees back. Damn, I actually scolded him. I brushed shoulders with the Grim Reaper. Zhao Quan was so scared his legs went soft. He couldn't control the urge to pee and said in a daze. At this time, Jiang Tian was dealing with the vast cultivation resources of the Huang family and the Crimson Stone sect. The Huang family had dominated this world for hundreds of years, especially when the Crimson Stone sect was conquering the world. They had once swept through dozens of sects, burning, killing, and looting. They had obtained countless cultivation resources such as spirit herbs, spirit medicines, spirit stones, cultivation methods, and so on. As for the famous mountains, great rivers, spirit veins, and spirit springs, they were all imperial land. But now, they had all become Jiang Tian's private property. He could take and use them as he pleased. I've long felt that the Red Cloud ancestors' level of formations wasn't enough to attract the aura of the earth from hundreds of kilometers away. It turns out that there is a huge spirit vein hidden underground in warm jade-blessed land that stretches for hundreds of kilometers. Jiang Tian stood above the ruins of warm jade-blessed land with his hands behind his back. He looked like he was taking a stroll, his divine sense sweeping back and forth as he smiled faintly. Beside him, Ding Lingdang, Bai Zhe, Zhang Qianlei, the true dragon ancestor, and the big black dog were accompanying him. Slow down. These are the treasures that the absolute beginning dominator wants. If anything goes wrong, I'll break your legs. Lei Sen and Shen Jiuling ordered many Qi cultivators to move the cultivation resources of the Huang family over. Lei Sen had abused Zhang Qianlei in every possible way. According to Zhang Qianlei's opinion, Lei Sen should be skinned alive. However, although Zhang Qianlei had a fiery temper, he still cared about the big picture. The Imperial Thunder sect had many things to do, and was in dire need of manpower. Zhang Qianlei carried out Sect Master Tang's last wish to revive the sect. He did not kill him and let him live. Now, facing Zhang Qianlei, Lei Sen Shen Jiuling was like a pug that had seen its master. He nodded and bowed to Zhang Qianlei and followed his orders. He was very useful and had become Zhang Qianlei's right-hand man. Influence and power were good things. Jiang Tian had already become the ruler of this world. With a single command, he possessed the power to topple mountains and overturn seas. Many sects and cities did not even have time to curry favor with him. They all took action, afraid that if they were slow, they would offend Jiang Tian. In just a few days, the dilapidated fences and dilapidated walls within a radius of 100 miles had long been cleared away, and a magnificent palace had been built. These palaces were magnificent and inlaid with gold and jade. Many gems and crystals were used in large quantities as glazed tiles and bricks. In addition, there were rockery and strange stones carved with large pieces of spirit stones. They were cleverly arranged into a spirit-gathering array, releasing thousands of rays of light and thousands of auspicious colors. It was simply like a paradise on earth. In terms of luxury, the royal gardens of any country on earth were like thatched houses compared to it. In fact, Jiang Tian did not like this kind of extravagance. In his opinion, a thatched house was enough to shelter him from the wind and rain. It even needed to be covered by the sky and on the ground. What really attracted Jiang Tian was a giant spirit vein under the warm jade-blessed land. 100 meters underground, there was a giant spirit vein hidden. The spirit chi was extremely rich and had already crystallized. It was crystal clear like a red agate, far more than the spirit veins Jiang Tian had seen in other worlds. The spirit veins on Earth were even more difficult to catch up. No wonder the Qi world had so many golden core cultivators in recent years, far more than the stellar sky domain. They have such a deep foundation. Bai Zai touched his chin that was full of green stubble and said gloomily. According to the number of golden core cultivators in the Qi world, it was comparable to an ordinary third-grade dimensional world. But the stellar sky domain had spent hundreds of years and exhausted the resources of the entire continent to only produce one golden core cultivator, Li Longyuan. If we absorb all of this spirit vein, we can produce at least 3 ordinary nascent soul heavenly lords. Jiang Tian revealed a look of deep thought and said, Bai Zai, you're only a nascent soul cultivator. It's far from enough to guard the stellar sky domain or conquer the sea of stars in the future. I think we should cultivate here and break through once. Apart from this giant spirit vein, the Crimson Stone Sect's treasure vault had been opened. Many spirit stones, herbs, and artifacts had been moved here. They were piled up like mountains and couldn't be counted. With so many cultivation resources and Jiang Tian's heaven-defying cultivation technique, it wasn't exaggerated to produce 3 nascent soul cultivators. Although cultivation is important, the Kanglin world has been taken over by the Jade Lake. This time, you killed 4 nascent soul heavenly lords, including Emperor Qinqing's woman. With Emperor Qinqing's vengeful personality, he will definitely lead an army here. How will we have time to cultivate? Bai Zai said anxiously. It won't take too long. I'll teach you the primal chaos creation art. Its devouring ability is amazing. You can devour the entire spirit vein in a year. And with this, Jiang Tian looked calm and unhurried. He flicked his finger and took out the time array disc. What's this? Bai Zai's eyes shone with a strange light and asked curiously. Originally, Bai Zai's personality was simple and crude. He didn't like to use his brain and didn't know much about arrays. However, in the past few years, he learned a lot when repairing the damaged heavenly star array. He could tell at a glance that the array disc was extraordinary. Jiang Tian raised his hand and grabbed a Qi cultivator from the prisoner camp in the distance. He imprisoned the cultivator with a forbidden domain and activated the formation plate. With a spin, it arrived above the cultivator's head and unleashed thousands of streaks of auspicious light, enveloping the cultivator like a shield. Senior Tai Chu, please spare my life. The prisoner felt that something was wrong and begged for mercy. Jiang Tian didn't move. Bai Zai saw in shock. The dantian of this cultivator violently rumbled, the true essence and qi and blood in his body rapidly drained away, the strong and bulging muscles on his body shriveled at a speed visible to the naked eye, the violently beating heart gradually became weak and old, the originally straight as a sword body rapidly bent, trembling all over, unable to stand steadily, the firm and glossy skin became gray and wrinkled, and yellowish-brown spots appeared on it. The thick black hair on his head turned gray, and then fell off one by one, revealing an ugly scalp. He seemed to have gone through 100 years in the blink of an eye. From a vigorous cultivator in the refinement stage, he had turned into an old man whose eyes were cloudy, his teeth were falling out, and he seemed to be about to run out of energy and pass away in the next moment. This is a time acceleration array disc? Bai Zai was dumbfounded and couldn't believe it. Jiang Tian took back the array disc. The cultivator immediately rolled to the ground and couldn't get up. A few guards came forward and took him away. Jiang Tian said lightly, I just adjusted the speed of the time acceleration array disc to the extreme and reached 100 or 1,000 times faster. He's just an early-stage qi refinement cultivator. Of course he can't bear it. How terrifying. Bai Zai's heart trembled. He gasped and cold sweat dripped down. Time had always been the most difficult thing to control. Cultivation arts, divine powers, dharma artifacts, and dharma treasures that involved time were extremely rare in the universe. However, Jiang Tian actually had a time acceleration array disc. Moreover, it was able to achieve such a terrifying time acceleration. If it was used to kill enemies, it would simply be unstoppable. There's such a terrifying array disc on Earth? Bai Zai was dumbfounded and couldn't come back to his senses for a long time. Jiang Tian, you're too lucky. Beside him, Zhang Qianlei was even more envious. He sighed and felt extreme regret. If he knew that following Jiang Tian would allow him to obtain so many powerful dharma treasures and endless resources, He wouldn't have come to a godforsaken place like the Crimson Wilderness. Ancient Earth was indeed the ancestral land. It was too mysterious and had a deep heritage. It actually had so many immortal artifacts left behind. Be it the Absolute Heaven Sword or the Time Acceleration Array Disk, they were probably rare even in the ruins of immortality. What was laughable was that many multidimensional world experts had forgotten their ancestors. They had forgotten that ancient Earth was their ancestral land, the source that gave birth to the multidimensional worlds. They treated Earth as a remote and desolate wasteland. They looked down on it and even wanted to invade and occupy it. Only Jiang Tian, who was born on Earth, was filled with love for his homeland and the land that gave birth to it. He would fully excavate Earth's reserves and obtain great blessings. The natural treasures he had were enough to make the ruins' emperor envious. Chapter 1352. My lord, with this array disk, you will have the help of God. Bai Zhe rubbed his hands like a fly, and his saliva almost flowed out. His eyes and heart were filled with greed and passion, and he was full of envy for Jiang Tian. Don't just think about the lethality of the time array disk. Jiang Tian smiled and said, if you adjust the time array disk to a suitable speed, it will greatly increase your cultivation speed. Bai Zhe patted his head and said excitedly, for example, if I adjust it to 10 times the speed, I will only need to cultivate for a month and it will be equivalent to a year. If it's 20 times the speed, it will be even faster. Jiang Tian waved at ancestral patriarch Zhenlong and said, I will also cultivate in seclusion for a month and reach the first level of the golden core level. Zhenlong, go to Kanglin World with Blackie. If you can defeat them, kill all the cultivators of the Jade Lake and close the teleportation array. If you can't defeat them, run back. Jiang Tian had his reasons for making such arrangements. There were 7 heavenly lord families and sects in the Jade Lake, including the Tiandao sect. There were a few nascent soul heavenly lords. Including ancestral patriarch Tai Ri who died in the Tianxing sector, there were already 4. The rest of them were only 2 or 3 big cats and small cats. However, the Jade Lake's territory had expanded too much and the battle line was too long. The Jade Lake and its subordinate 4th-level dimension worlds, plus the Dragon Gate they occupied, all needed heavenly lords to guard. In this way, only 1 or 2 heavenly lords would be given to the Kanglin world. Even though Zhenlong was only at the 1st level of the nascent soul level, as long as he didn't fight head-on, he could escape unscathed. Yes, Master. I will not disappoint you. Ancestral patriarch Zhenlong was shocked. After Jiang Tian formed the Golden Core, he had been stuck at the 1st level of the Golden Core level, but he could already kill nascent soul overlords and withstand the self-destruction of a nascent soul. If he reached the mid-stage of the Golden Core level this time, he might be able to fight against a mid-stage nascent soul level or even a soul formation overlord. Even though there was only a certain probability, at least there was hope. True Dragon, don't worry. You won't fail me this time. Suddenly, a burst of laughter rang out from the distant horizon. From the Heavenly Star Refugee Camp's teleportation array formation, 3 silhouettes soared into the sky, turning into rainbows that pierced through the heavens and earth, leaving long afterimages in the air as they shot over. Nascent Soul Heavenly Monarch. Seeing this kind of powerful aura that could penetrate the heavens and the earth, he was shocked. Bai Zhe was shocked. His pupils suddenly constricted as he stared into the distance and said with full vigilance, "That's right." Could it be that the experts of the Jade Lake have invaded the Heavenly Star and are attacking again? The Dragon Gate and Jade Pool's teleportation array to Heavenly Star has been closed. They had no choice but to forcefully break through the spatial barrier. It's impossible without a few decades. True Dragon Grand Ancestor murmured as he shook his head. Suddenly, joy appeared on his face as he said, "Lian Sheng, Takong, and Mingyi are here." His divine sense was astonishing. Sure enough, he wasn't mistaken. The 3 of them quickly arrived in front of Jiang Tian. They knelt down and said, "Greetings, my lord." 3 more nascent soul stage cultivators. Bai Zhe was stunned. His eyes were wide open. This old demon Jiang is too overbearing. Even his subordinates are nascent soul stage cultivators. Fuck, I don't have any status now. Zhang Qianlei was dumbfounded. He couldn't believe it. They weren't that powerful before. Jiang Tian said, I took them in West Earth. They were just nascent soul stage cultivators back then, but now they're all nascent soul stage cultivators. The Taichu Dominator is too powerful. Ding Lingdang looked at Jiang Tian with admiration, as if she were a fan who had seen her idol. Lian Sheng's aura was vigorous, and his eyes were murderous, like Vajra's glare. He stepped on the air, ethereal and ethereal, like an immortal, as if he would soar into the sky at any moment. The aura of the Styx River was bleak and murderous, and the aura of death lingered around him. The three of them had the temperament of a master craftsman. Their strength was comparable to that of true dragon grand ancestor, and they were much more powerful than Bai Zhe and Zhang Qianlei. They didn't know that these people used to be dominators of a third-level dimension. They didn't want to submit to the rule of the ruins of deity, so they hid in the Thunderlock realm and submitted to Jiang Tian. It turned out that Ding Lai had gone to Earth to invite the three old monsters. The three old monsters were concerned about the situation here. They were worried that Jiang Tian wouldn't be able to defeat them, so they rushed over to help. They even brought Long Yanan over. This was to make the enemy hesitate or force the enemy to surrender at a critical moment. But they didn't expect that. Jiang Tian was as powerful as a dragon. He killed 4 nascent soul stage cultivators in one night and swept through the entire Crimson Wild World. Fortunately, Navy Tide World hadn't been taken down yet. The three of them weren't powerless. Very good. You came just in time. Jiang Tian nodded and smiled. If we only had a 50% chance of winning, now that you're all here, taking down Navy Tide World shouldn't be a problem. Go. Yes. The 4 of them soared into the sky and turned into 4 streaks of light, flying in the direction of the Crimson Stone sect. There was a teleportation formation that led to Navy Tide World. They could enter through this formation and kill the guards of Jade Pool. After the 4 of them left, the ruins were silent. Only Ding Lingdang was left to protect Jiang Tian and the other 2. Lei Sen, Shen Jiuling, and other cultivators stood around like guards. However, Jiang Tian wasn't afraid at all. The headquarters of the Crimson Stone sect was 1,000 miles away. Even if Jade Pool's nascent soul stage cultivators entered, Jiang Tian would still have time to sense and react. As for the Crimson Wild World cultivators, they couldn't wait to worship and curry favor with him. None of them dared to provoke him. At this moment, Zhang Qianlei and Bai Zhe looked at each other. They soared into the sky and sat cross-legged in the air. They silently circulated the primal chaos creation art and began to sense and absorb the spiritual energy of the ley lines in warm jade-blessed land. As for Jiang Tian, he also began to sort out his cultivation method. Now that I've cultivated 9 divine bodies and condensed a primal chaos golden core, every galaxy on the primal chaos golden core represents a divine grade golden core and a divine body. Once the silhouette of each galaxy is activated, it has the power to fight against a nascent soul stage cultivator. Jiang Tian frowned as he pondered. However, these 9 galaxies were only the silhouettes of the laws. They hadn't truly formed the laws and condensed the true form of the laws. The reason why Jiang Tian was able to fight against a nascent soul stage cultivator was completely because of the instincts of his divine body. To be exact, it was his innate divine ability. However, the success rate of his innate divine ability wasn't 100%. There was a certain chance of failure. In a battle against a nascent soul stage cultivator, danger was everywhere. As the saying went, one careless move could cause the whole game to be lost. How could there be any mistakes? Now, Jiang Tian wanted to further solidify the silhouettes of the laws. Once the silhouettes solidified, they would become true law imprints. The corresponding divine body would also reach the realm of perfection. Only then would Jiang Tian truly have the power of a nascent soul stage cultivator. This was similar to ascending to the height of the laws through thousands of practice. From subconscious instincts to skillful control. Once the laws were formed, every battle would be foolproof. It was an extreme sublimation, which would greatly increase Jiang Tian's chances of winning. Besides, Only when the 9 types of laws were stable and condensed and formed the true seal of laws and the 9 divine bodies were perfected and flawless could they complement each other. In the end, the core would be broken and the nascent soul would be formed. The 9 orifices divine infant would then be successfully promoted to a divine grade nascent soul. A sacred grade nascent soul stage cultivator was the strongest in the world of cultivation. A deity-grade nascent soul stage cultivator was the seed of a deity. A divine-grade nascent soul stage cultivator was the seed of an immortal. With such a divine-grade seed, the chances of breaking through to the void returning or Tao reunion level and eventually going through the tribulation to ascend to the deity realm would be almost 100%. It would be far more powerful than a deity-grade nascent soul stage cultivator. It would even have the chance to continuously evolve and ascend to the divine realm. With the supreme divine-grade nascent soul as the foundation and the divine-grade nascent 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 divine grade 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 nascent divine grade. Then he would be able to climb to the top of the universe one day and look down on billions of galaxies, laying the foundation for all eternity. Once a divine grade nascent soul was formed, even the divine princes and divine fetuses in the deity realm and the divine realm wouldn't be able to compare. That would greatly increase the chances of Jiang Tian ascending to the divine realm. To a certain extent, once a divine-grade nascent soul was formed, Jiang Tian would be no different from the children of true gods. He might even be better in some aspects. After all, the children of true gods were only the second generation of true gods. They were like flowers in a greenhouse. They had never been tempered and were still lacking in terms of stability and battle experience. On the other hand, Jiang Tian was truly a first-generation sky god. Chapter 1353. However, being the son of a true god also had his advantages. Not only did he have a divine-grade golden core or nascent soul, he also had a divine body, divine meridians, and divine souls. It could be said that Jiang Tian's cultivation wasn't done blindly or in a hurry for quick success. Instead, it was carefully planned and steady. Every step he took was incomparably firm. From the beginning of his cultivation, Jiang Tian's goal was to become the strongest in the universe. If Jiang Tian hadn't pursued excellence and perfection, he would have been too slow. If he had only pursued breakthroughs and speed, he would have broken through to the nascent soul level or even a half-soul formation level with the resources he had obtained from the other dimensions. The time array plate floated above his head and spun slowly. Rays of light formed a light curtain that enveloped Jiang Tian. 9 transformations of the divine plate. Every time it spins, it forms a true seal of Dharma laws. It's like refining a golden core to the golden core peak stage or even the nascent soul level. Jiang Tian looked at it and exclaimed, "The resources I've used are enormous. Luckily, I've searched the heavenly star world, heavenly country, West Earth and the red field world and broken the deity trap array. The resources I've obtained are enough for me to break through at least once." Whoosh! Jiang Tian patted the sky-swallowing demon gourd and a golden tower appeared in his hand. "What's that?" In the distance, Ding Lingdang and Zhang Qianlei were startled. The ancient pagoda emitted endless golden light and was filled with thousands of auspicious colors. It was yellow, shiny, and incomparably smooth. However, it was as heavy as a mountain, as if it was made of gold and was formed by the condensation of endless golden cores. Golden core. That's right. Right then, there was no other word that could describe the tower better in everyone's eyes. Because this ancient pagoda exuded an aura of immortality, indestructibility, eternity, and unbelievably sturdiness. It was extremely similar to a golden core. This pagoda was none other than the 10,000 Buddha's relic pagoda. It was the treasure of the Golden Rock Temple on West Earth Mountain. It was said to have been made with 10,000 golden cores of eminent monks. Of course, in Jiang Tian's eyes, it was definitely an exaggeration to say that 10,000 Saraira golden cores were condensed. As for the real number, it was bound to be greatly reduced. After all, in the history of Golden Rock Temple, there were probably only a few dozen golden elixirs. This was understandable. If Golden Rock Temple wanted to suppress West Earth, it naturally had to exaggerate its strength and foundation. Otherwise, how could they convince the masses? How could they suppress the thousands of sects and clans? How could they suppress the cultivators, mortals, and hundreds of millions of other creatures? However, he could not underestimate the 10,000 Buddha relic pagoda because of this. It also contained the blood essence of many eminent monks and the demonic cores of demonic beasts. It was not an exaggeration to say that it contained the power of at least 100 golden cores. Furthermore, later on, Jiang Tian had also refined the gold cores of certain quality that he had obtained from killing people everywhere. Only the inferior ones would be refined into pills for the large black dog or eaten raw. Even the nascent soul essence of Duanmu Guang and the other nascent soul cultivators that he had killed had been refined and stored. If that was the case, this pagoda would have at least 1,000 ordinary golden cores. Rumble. At this time, Jiang Tian had already cultivated to the golden core realm. If he continued to cultivate, how terrifying would his power be? Under everyone's astonished gazes. As Jiang Tian circulated the primal chaos creation art, the 10,000 Buddha relic pagoda instantly cracked and shattered. A terrifying shockwave was instantly formed, as if hundreds of small nuclear weapons had exploded. The golden essence chi of the gold cores and nascent souls rolled out like raging waves, sweeping away everything within a radius of 100 miles. At this moment, violent winds howled, and sand and stones flew everywhere. Heaven and earth were in chaos. Even the sky trembled violently as if it was about to be torn apart by a hurricane. It exploded directly? Bai Zhe and Zhang Qianlei turned pale with fright as they were thrown off their feet. The power of this 10,000 Buddha relic pagoda was actually so terrifying. If it was to be absorbed and refined, then it would naturally have to be polished, sliced, and refined. How could it be blasted apart so cleanly like this? Dare I ask you, old demon Jiang, are you cultivating or committing suicide? However, Jiang Tian, who was only a foot away from the 10,000 Buddha relic pagoda, seemed as if a cool breeze was blowing against his face. His expression was still as calm as water, and he wasn't affected in the slightest. Only his clothes and long hair lightly fluttered. As for Bai Zhe and Zhang Qianlei, after retreating more than 100 meters, they were immediately fixed in the air. The golden essence chi of the golden core relics swept past them 3 meters away, unable to penetrate even the slightest bit. Master used the forbidden zone to protect us. This is unbelievable. Only a fiend like him would dare to do this. Zhang Qianlei and Bai Zhe's foreheads were covered in sweat. They were extremely terrified. The next moment, Jiang Tian used the forbidden zone again. The golden core and nascent soul essence within a 10-kilometer radius froze and floated in the air like golden clouds, enveloping Jiang Tian. Swallow. Jiang Tian used the Tao Tai returns to its essence. A vortex that resembled a black hole appeared in his dantian, containing an extremely terrifying devouring power. Moreover, the vortex continued to expand, instantly forming a radius of 1 kilometer. Instantly, the black hole vortex sucked in the endless golden core essence like a whale sucking in water. The colorful golden core and nascent soul essence surged towards the black vortex like a tide. Finally, it gathered at the center of the vortex, Jiang Tian's dantian. In just a few seconds, there wasn't a single drop of the endless golden core essence left. At this moment, in Jiang Tian's dantian, the golden core essence chi was surging like a tide. Even in his meridians, there was an endless amount of essence chi surging endlessly, making a rumbling sound that could be heard for 100 miles. Crack. Suddenly, several cracks appeared in Jiang Tian's dantian. Jiang Tian's body suddenly expanded rapidly, turning into a 10-meter-tall giant. His dantian also expanded as runes flickered and intertwined around the cracks, trying to forcefully mend and heal them. However, just as the cracks in his dantian closed, they opened again. Boom! Endless golden core essence gushed out of the cracks and exploded. At this moment, sand and stones flew everywhere, the mountains boiled, the sky distorted, and the sun and stars blurred. In fact, cracks began to appear on the surface of Jiang Tian's body. His skin cracked as though it was about to explode. Oh no! Master's dantian is damaged. I've already told you, biting off more than you can chew. How can you do this? At the side, Bai Zhe and Zhang Qianlei were shocked and horrified. Lei Sun, Xin Jiuling, and the other guards' expressions changed drastically, as though they were facing a great enemy. What should we do? Outside, Ding Lingdang was helpless and was so anxious that she was tearing up. Master, you're too greedy and rash. Many Chia cultivators, who pretended to be Dao protectors but were actually secretly learning from the great Dao, sighed. From the perspective of an ordinary cultivator, at this moment, Jiang Tian's breakthrough had already failed and there was even a danger of his cultivation level dropping significantly. The essence and essence qi gathered in the 10,000 Buddha relic pagoda was truly terrifying. At this moment, it was like a nuclear explosion, exploding, surging and wreaking havoc in Jiang Tian's dantian and every part of his body. Any cultivator, even a nascent soul heavenly lord or a soul formation grand cultivator, would have to carefully absorb and refine such powerful energy. It would take them 10 years or even longer, but Jiang Tian was doing it like a cow chewing a peony. It was like a mortal eating a set meal for 10 people in one go. His stomach would definitely explode. That was because Jiang Tian had the support of 9 divine bodies and the Taoyue's essence restoration was constantly suppressing and devouring. If it was a normal cultivator, even a nascent soul or soul formation cultivator, his body would probably explode and die within a few seconds. The essence qi of 5 nascent soul cultivators and a few hundred golden cores is enough to scare you? In my opinion, it's not enough. Don't be nervous. Focus on cultivating. I have a way to deal with it. However, Jiang Tian, who was at the center, looked calm and smiled leisurely. He quickly came up with 2 countermeasures. First, he took out 10 Buddhian pills and swallowed them. Then he pointed at the time array disc and activated it. Boom! The instant Jiang Tian swallowed the 10 heaven-mending pills, it was as if the heavens and earth were falling apart. An incomparably vast amount of spiritual energy exploded within Jiang Tian's body. However, the spirit qi didn't further damage Jiang Tian's dantian. Instead, they interweaved and pulled at the damaged parts of his dantian and body like threads, quickly repairing them. All the cracks were repaired in the blink of an eye. Moreover, they emitted a dazzling divine radiance, seeming to be several times tougher than before. The moment Jiang Tian's dantian closed. Refine. Jiang Tian's face was like iron, without the slightest trace of expression. However, within his eyes, there was a sharp and firm cold light. Chapter 1354. Rumble. Jiang Tian's dantian let out a thunderous roar that echoed for 100 miles. Immediately, Jiang Tian used the chaotic creation art and the endless golden core essence qi was quickly absorbed by Jiang Tian, forming his true essence. The time array was 10 times faster and 3 days were equivalent to a month in the outside world. 3 days later, the vast golden core essence qi in the 10,000 Buddha relic pagoda was all refined into Jiang Tian's true essence. The true essence didn't have any attributes at first, it was like a chaotic energy. But at this moment, within Jiang Tianju's dantian, the divine disk spun, and the golden river of stars slowly shook. Endless gung metal true yuan erupted, and a gung metal divine general appeared behind Jiang Tianju. The divine general was wearing a golden helmet and golden armor. It was as tall as a mountain and it shone brightly, as if it were completely made of a golden core. It emitted an indestructible and powerful energy and looked 80% similar to Jiang Tian. Everyone was dumbfounded. Unexpectedly, the gung metal divine general also had a dantian in his body. There was a gung metal golden core in the dantian, and it absorbed all the attributeless vital essence from Jiang Tianzhu's Dantian and turned it into Gung metal vital essence. Another 10 days later, all the true essence in Jiang Tian's Dantian was absorbed and refined by the Divine General Gung Jin. The golden core in Divine General Gung Jin's Dantian formed the shape of a golden fetus. Boom! The golden fetus raised its head and roared at the sky. It shone with boundless radiance as it trembled and rumbled. The aura of the Gingjin Divine General behind Jiang Tian also rose steadily, as if it would never end, as if it could lift up the sky. Under everyone's shocked gaze, it shot up endlessly and illuminated the sky, as if it were going to break the barrier of the dimension and reach an unprecedented height. Right then, the Divine General Gung Jin didn't use any divine powers, but the energy it released was much more powerful than Duanmu Guang and the others. It made the sky shake and everything in a 100-mile radius trembled, as if there was an earthquake. Gung Jin had even doubled in size, and it was like a mountain of gold and jade that held up the sky. Moreover, it had become material to the extreme, dazzling and resplendent, and it illuminated the heavens and the earth and illuminated the sun and moon. He formed the nascent soul in 13 days. That's terrifying. Everyone was terrified and they couldn't believe it. In fact, even though only 13 days had passed in the outside world, Jiang Tian had cultivated for more than 4 months with the help of the time array. But no one knew that. They only thought that Jiang Tian formed the nascent soul in 13 days. How could they not be shocked? Besides, even if Jiang did take 4 months' true essence, it would still be a record-breaking achievement. Even among the peerless sects in the Central Galaxy, it was extremely rare and eye-catching. This is only the Grand Primordium Sovereign's first nascent soul formation divine body, but it already has such terrifying power. If all 9 of them formed their nascent souls at the same time, how terrifying would that be? Bai Zhe saw it more deeply, but his heart was even more shocked. Still not enough. At this moment, Jiang Tian slowly opened his eyes. A hint of determination flashed in his eyes as he said calmly, "Don't worry. The Gung metal divine body has yet to reach perfection. Today, I'll use this warm jade spiritual vein to push him to perfection." At this moment, Jiang Tian had 8 other divine bodies and 8 galaxies on the Master Deity's golden core, which represented 8 different golden cores. Just the Gingjin Divine General, who had successfully formed his nascent soul, was enough to kill a nascent soul cultivator as easily as killing a chicken. However, Jiang Tian was still not satisfied. The first divine body that Jiang Tian condensed was the Gung metal divine body. Although the Gung metal divine body had the name of a divine body, it was actually one of the 12 most powerful immortal bodies and not a true divine body. However, at that time, Jiang Tian had very few cultivation resources and he was facing many powerful enemies, so he could only make do with what he had. The Gung metal divine body had been nourished endlessly and it was the first to reach the phenomenal success level. That day, Jiang Tian was determined to push it to perfection. Taotai returns. Jiang Tian reached out his hand. All of a sudden, the entire warm jade-blessed land trembled. Boundless earth lung qi and boundless spiritual qi turned into red clouds that flowed into Jiang Tian's body like a great river. In the end, the spirit qi of different colors in the vast barren world, including the earth, fire, wood and yin malice qi, formed a howling hurricane from all directions and poured into Jiang Tian's body. The essence qi in a few hundred miles was taken by Jiang Tian. Countless spirit herbs, desolate wood, and spirit herbs on the oasis let out crackling sounds and instantly withered, turning into spirit qi that merged into the great tide. Jiang Tian was like a black hole, crazily sucking in all the energy around him. Many Foundation establishment and Golden Core demonic beasts were scared out of their wits and ran away crazily. Ding Lingdang and the others also retreated a few hundred miles before they managed to stop themselves. Forming the nascent soul is nothing. This time, Master is really going to enter the forbidden area of the nascent soul realm and form his own laws. Bai Zhe looked up in shock with anticipation. While Jiang Tian was cultivating in seclusion in the warm jade-blessed land of the barren world, ancestral patriarch Shenlong and the other old monsters had already killed a nascent soul ancestral patriarch of the Jade Lake world and conquered the Kanglan world. Also, the news of the 4 heavenly lords and the fall of the barren world had already spread throughout the Jade Lake world, shocking everyone again. In fact, there were very few details when the news of Star World first came. Many people thought that the Stellar Sky Domain and Kong Techu had used some tricks or powerful true artifacts to kill ancestral patriarch Binding Sun, Chen Liuhe, and the other Jade Lake cultivators. Although they hated Jiang Tian, there was still a trace of contempt in their bones. 3 heavenly lords and ancestral patriarch who she even brought the supreme-grade true artifact ancestral dragon rhinoceros head. Together with ancestral patriarch Hong Xia from the barren world, there are 4 nascent soul realm cultivators in total. This is like using a sledgehammer to kill a chicken. It's not just using a sledgehammer to kill a chicken, it's using a true artifact to kill a mosquito. That Kong Techu will definitely be crushed. I think that Kong Techu relied on tricks to win. Do we still need the ancestral patriarchs? I'm just a 2nd stage Golden Core realm cultivator, and I'm confident that I can crush him. That's right. This is the 12th level of success. It's foolproof. You have to know that ancestral patriarch Duanmu and the others have the help of ancestral patriarch Hong Xia. They also have the home ground advantage, and many Golden Core and Foundation establishment cultivators from the barren world are cooperating with them. This is the wisdom of the Azure the Arch. When a tiger fights a rabbit, it has to use all its strength. Although Kong Techu is just an insignificant ant, we still have to stretch out all 5 fingers and crush him to death. Many Jade Lake cultivators didn't take Jiang Tian seriously. They were full of confidence and were determined to win. The difficulty of reaching the nascent soul realm was as difficult as reaching the heavens. There was usually only 1 nascent soul realm cultivator among hundreds of millions of cultivators. They had high positions and were the nobles and officials of this world. They looked down on hundreds of millions of living beings. With a stomp of their feet, this world would tremble. The strength of a nascent soul realm cultivator was even more unimaginable. With 1 attack, 10 miles of land would be turned into dust. It would spread to a radius of 100 miles. It would be easy to destroy cities and countries. With such a luxurious lineup of 4 nascent soul realm cultivators attacking, Kong Techu was just an ant from the Earth world. How could he withstand it? Even the Duanmu clan, Thousand Tails Shen clan, Dragon Rhinoceros Hu clan, Huangfu clan, and other clans that were originally gloomy became joyful and full of vigor. They were waiting for the ancestral patriarchs to return in triumph and sharpen their blades until they were as bright as snow. They were only waiting for them to take Kong Techu to this world and torture him for thousands of years. This time, with the 3 heavenly monarchs attacking, Kong Techu will definitely die. Taking down the Stellar Sky Domain will also be a piece of cake. Once we take down the Stellar Sky Domain, we can kill our way to the Earth world through the teleportation array and slaughter all the animals and ants there. Not even a single Chinese alligator will be left. Some cultivators clamored. It could be said that Star World had never been as important as it was today. In the 4th level dimension that they controlled, the ancient teleportation arrays from the Kanglan world and the barren world to Earth were all destroyed. Now, the Stellar Sky Domain was the only passage from the Jade Lake to the Earth world. Of course, to the Earth world, it was also the last fortress. Once it was broken, the ruins of immortality and the other dimensional worlds would be completely connected to the Earth world. Revenge! Revenge! Kong Techu plotted against our Jade Lake's 6 Directions Crown Prince and killed 300,000 soldiers. We will take revenge 10 times, 100 times. We will let them know that our cultivation world is not to be trifled with. Yes, we will kill every single one of them and turn them into a completely lifeless planet of death. There were even some commanders and generals who were preparing their horses and troops, waiting for the dawn to come. They cleaned up the cultivator army, rubbed their palms, and trained all day long. They were only waiting for the heavenly monarchs to kill Kong Techu and regain control of the Stellar Sky Domain. Then, through the Stellar Sky Domain, they would go straight to the Earth world and start a massacre. Just as many forces thought that Kong Taechu would definitely lose this time and were waiting for good news. Suddenly, on the teleportation array platform leading to the barren world, a group of injured soldiers appeared. Their armor was broken, their bodies were stained with blood, their bones were broken, and they looked extremely miserable. Kong Taechu killed Duanmu Guang, Shin Jingjing, Hu Shi, and the Red Cloud ancestor from the barren world. The barren world has fallen. In addition, the Kanglan world has also fallen. Suddenly, 4 nascent soul realm old monsters appeared. They are extremely powerful and despicable. When the news spread, everyone was dumbfounded and couldn't believe it. The Jade Lake cultivators who had previously vowed that Jiang Tian would definitely lose and were flaunting their strength and talking nonsense. After hearing the news, their expressions were even more unsightly, as if they were constipated. I really fucked 100 Chinese alligators. They felt like they had eaten a few flies, like they had been slapped in the face, or like they had accidentally fucked 100 strange beasts. Chapter 1355. How is this possible? Kong Taechu is just an ant from the Earth domain. How can he kill 4 ancestors? Lying about military intelligence is a capital offense. Even the cultivators of the Qi world didn't believe it, let alone the cultivators of the Jade Pool. They thought highly of themselves. Not to mention the Earth domain and Kong Taechu, even the Stellar Sky domain was just a remote place in their eyes. The cultivators there were just ants and dust. If the Azure the Arch wasn't crazy and wanted to take down the Earth domain, they wouldn't even bother to look at it. They didn't send back details last time, but it was different this time. This time, Jiang Tian and the others didn't close the teleportation array immediately. They even deliberately let them pass the message. So, many shocking news came out one after another. Kong Taechu has 4 nascent soul realm old monsters under his command. They attacked the Kanglan world. An army of 50,000 cultivators and more than 10 peak stage golden core realm cultivators were annihilated. Kong Taechu is only a golden core realm cultivator, but he can form and destroy forbidden regions. Fairy Jingjing was crushed by him. Kong Taechu even threatened that he would personally go to the Jade Pool within a month to ask the Azure the Arch for invading his territory. These news were more shocking than the previous. It was like an earth-shattering shock, and people couldn't recover from it. Shen Jingjing, that's the future empress. She was actually killed. How can the Azure the Arch let him go? Those who heard it all gasped as if they were struck by lightning and turned into clay statues. The Jade Pool world was a third-grade dimensional world, and it was the most outstanding existence in the third-grade dimensional world. The Dao land here was vast, the spirit energy was like clouds and mist, the spirit springs were like rivers and waterfalls, and the spirit herbs and spirit pills were as abundant as the sea. All the major inheritances were prosperous and developed. In 2,000 years, it actually surpassed many second-grade dimensional worlds and produced 10 nascent soul realm cultivators. This result was enough to be compared with the second-grade dimensional worlds and top all the third-grade dimensional worlds. But they were actually defeated by Kong Taechu. What did Kong Taechu have? What did the Earth domain and the Stellar Sky domain have? It was like the white residents in Washington who thought highly of themselves were dumbfounded and could not believe it when they heard that a primitive tribe in Africa had produced a few Harvard professors or Nobel Prize winners. What did he say? He said that he would come to the Jade Lake world within a month to question His Majesty the Azure the Arch. Is he crazy? Especially the last piece of news. Not only was it shocking, it was also infuriating. You're just an ant from the Earth world, yet you've killed several giants of the Jade Lake world. You've offended your superiors, and your crime is unforgivable. Now, not only are you not fearful, remorseful, and bowing your head, you are provoking us again, swaggering your way to our door. You're courting death in fancy ways. However, at this moment, compared to the boisterous low-level cultivators, several famous heavenly monarch families and sects maintained a strange silence and did not make a sound easily. In the Huangfu clan of the Heaven Monarch, on a mountain peak that was shrouded by spirit energy like clouds, orchids swayed gently, and dragon-like spirit vines coiled and climbed on the mountain walls. Clear spirit spring water flowed on the clean boulders, and essence waterfalls fell like silver threads. Cranes flew in the forest, and auspicious beasts ran around. 3 ancestor-level powerhouses were sitting cross-legged on a huge blue stone. Their expressions were serene, like old monks who had entered a meditative state. Duanmu Guang, Hu Shi, Shen Jingjing, and ancestral patriarch Hong Xia. Those 4 are all nascent soul heavenly lords who can cast forbidden realms. They've all been killed. This Jiang Taichu has really pierced the heavens. An ancestral patriarch on the right suddenly sensed something and said with a bit of surprise, "This old man has never thought that there would be such a terrifying being on Earth. Could it be that the legend is actually true? What should we do?" He had even killed that vixen Shen Jingjing. His Majesty Emperor Qin would definitely be furious. Besides, Ping Tian was also killed by him. Are we, the Huangfu family, going to hold our noses and bear with it? An old woman on the left frowned. The legend of the pregnant deity is too vague and unreal. Let's not talk about it for now. The patriarch in the middle pondered for a moment. His sharp eyes were filled with worry, and his expression was slightly solemn. However, Kong Taichu was able to kill Duanmu Guang and the other ancestral patriarchs. We're about the same level as ancestral patriarch Duanmu. This means that Kong Taichu can also kill us. Half of the nascent soul heavenly lords in the Jade Lake world have died. If Chen Qinshan doesn't ask for help, he won't win. We just need to wait and see. After all, this world belongs to the Chen family after all. After the 3 old men finished their discussion, they closed their eyes and continued to cultivate. Their auras were like old turtles, faintly discernible. They didn't mention Huangfu Pingtian's death again. Which heavenly lord family didn't have deep roots? They had many talents and cultivated an echelon of heirs. Firstly, it was to divide the power. Secondly, it was to make them compete with each other to make contributions for the family. Thirdly, it was to reduce the risk. If only one elite died, there would be no successor. If Huangfu Pingtian died, then so be it. Immediately, there would be other descendants with talents that weren't inferior to him to take his place. This was the only way to ensure that the lineage of the clan continued to be passed down, and the clan's luck would flourish for a long time. As a nascent soul heavenly lord family, they weren't stupid. To fight to the death with Jiang Tian over a small grudge and let others benefit from it, surpassing them from behind. That was the worst plan. This was also the reason why the Huangfu family didn't do much when the Duanmu family, the Shen family, and the Hu family asked their ancestral patriarchs to kill Jiang Tian. However, if Chen had a high chance of winning, they would definitely come out to suppress Jiang Tian and occupy the inferior worlds. However, the Duanmu family, the Shen family, and the Hu family had suffered heavy losses in this battle, but they kept silent. Jiang Tian had killed 4 heavenly lords and had a mysterious nascent soul cultivator with him. His power was too terrifying. This changed their attitude towards Jiang Tian from extreme disdain to extreme caution. They carefully evaluated Jiang Tian's power and didn't come up with a plan. Just as the entire Jade Lake fell into a strange silence, and no one made a sound, a voice rang out. In the depths of the Tiandao sect, Emperor Chen Qing's angry roar came from the Tiandao Palace, which was like a bronze immortal palace. Jiang Taichu, you killed my son and woman. This enmity is as deep as the sea. I will not rest until you are dead. Do you think I'll wait for you to come to the Jade Lake? What a joke. At this moment, Emperor Qin felt like his heart was being cut by a knife. His hatred for Jiang Tian was so deep that even the water of the heavenly river couldn't wash it away. He gnashed his teeth, his eyes spitting out flames of fury. His face, which hadn't seemed to be affected by the collapse of the world and the extinction of thousands of races for thousands of years, was twisted like an evil ghost at the moment. I'm going to go to the Stellar Sky sector and the Earth sector. I'll kill all your family, friends, and all the people on Earth. He yelled to the sky and his voice was heard 100 miles away. The mountains shook violently and the entire Jade Lake world was shocked. Kong Taichu, I'm going to take out your divine soul and let you watch how your family and friends are killed by me." After hearing that, the entire Jade Lake was shocked. Countless people looked serious. They knew the top sect of the Jade Lake was finally going to stand up and take control of the Jade Lake. If Emperor Chen went to the Jade Lake world in person, the situation would immediately change. Emperor Chen had already entered the mid-stage of the nascent soul level. In terms of power, many ancestral patriarchs couldn't compare to him. More importantly, he had received countless resources from the 100 Moon Academy and formed a 7th grade Golden Core. The grade of the nascent soul was determined when the Golden Core was formed. This meant that the Ruins Emperor's nascent soul was much more powerful than others. His combat power was almost invincible among his peers. In the 100 Moon Academy, he had even received guidance from the Ruins Emperor, who had truly mastered the laws and principles. He was called the Ruins Emperor's disciple and the Ruins Emperor's direct descendant among the Realm Lords. His power had reached an unimaginable level. Just when everyone thought that Emperor Chen would immediately send out his army and start a shocking war to kill the people of the Stellar Sky sector, what was strange was that Tiandao sect once again fell into a strange silence. Emperor Chen had also ordered that the family heads and the sect masters of the heavenly sects couldn't go out easily and had to wait for orders in Heaven Capital. Heaven Capital was the capital of the Jade Lake dynasty and the most prosperous city in the Jade Lake world. It was located at the foot of the Kuan-Yun mountain where the Tiandao sect was located. This was the Jade Lake world, the place where cultivation and the secular world intersected. In short, the Tiandao sect was the leader of the cultivation world in the Jade Lake world. And the Star Capital was the place where the highest authority of the secular world was located. All the major states had set up their envoys here. All the major sects and clans had also sent their representatives here. Even the headquarters of all the major trading companies were gathered here. But today, the atmosphere in Heaven Capital was solemn. The streets that used to be crowded with pedestrians and the sky that used to be filled with cultivators riding on swords were now empty. There were only dozens of surveillance flying ships that were emitting colorful lights patrolling back and forth. On the flying ships, there was an army of cultivators wearing dazzling golden armor with dragon patterns carved on it. They wore steel helmets, held long halberds in their hands, and had long swords and bows at their waists. They had high noses, deep eyes, and colorful hair. Obviously, they were not cultivators from the Jade Lake world. But each of them had a stern expression and a murderous aura. Their aura soared into the sky as pairs of sharp eyes scanned the surroundings. In the city, any cultivator flying on swords was immediately captured and killed. What's going on? What kind of big shot is coming? Why is there such a strict martial law? I heard that a young master of the Duanmu family was angry because his cousin, Duanmu Ci, died in battle. He drank too much and rode on his sword to the Tiandao palace. He said that he had something to report, but he was killed on the spot. Even the imperial guards of Emperor Qin couldn't stop him. Or rather, they didn't dare to stop him at all. Even the imperial guards didn't give him face. It seems that this group of people is not from the imperial palace. What kind of big shot is coming to make such a big scene? Many cultivators of the Jade Lake were talking about it. They were confused and felt uneasy. The entire Heaven Capital and even the Jade Lake continent. It was shrouded in a gloomy atmosphere, as if it was the last calm before the storm. Chapter 1356. The Jade Lake world was a federated country made up of many states. Emperor Qin was the supreme emperor and the realm master. A group of heavenly lord families and sects each occupied a state, listening to his orders and working for him. Those family masters and sect masters were also nobles and officials, forming the daily management structure. Jiang Tian had killed 3 nascent soul heavenly lords in the battle in the Chia world, as if nascent soul cultivators were normal. But in fact, that wasn't the case at all. Not to mention the Jade Lake world, even in the grade 2-dimensional world and the famous ruins of immortality, a nascent soul stage cultivator was still a big shot. There were only a handful of them in the Jade Lake. However, at this moment, The few remaining nascent soul heavenly lords in this world, including the Huangfu family and the Duanmu family, were standing respectfully in the reception hall of the Heavenly Tao Palace, not daring to make a sound. Both of them controlled great sects and countries. If they stomped their feet, the entire Jade Lake, which spanned tens of thousands of miles, would tremble uneasily and set off monstrous waves. However, at this moment, they were trembling and their legs went soft. They didn't even have the courage to look at the two people sitting in front of them. Only Emperor Qinqing and a young woman were sitting face to face. Emperor Qinqing's body was lofty and majestic like a mountain. The pressure of the middle stage of the nascent soul realm was rolling like a lonely peak overlooking the world. Countless mysterious and sacred auras lingered and filled the place, turning it into a holy land. If Duanmu Ting were here, he would be forced to kneel on the ground and could not even stand up. The woman in front of him looked to be in her 20s. Her streamlined golden armor with 9 dragon patterns accentuated her proud figure. Her waist was slender, and she was sexy to the extreme. She also gave people an inviolable and heroic feeling. The woman's skin was fair, and her features were picturesque. She had a pretty face, but her every movement was elegant and neat. She was mature, steady, and graceful. Her energy was as powerful as Emperor Qinqing's, as if she could control everything and command billions of troops. It seemed that she didn't care about a country, a sect, or billions of entities. Such energy couldn't be faked at all. Only after experiencing the vicissitudes of life, the cruel tempering of the flames of war, the cruel tempering of iron and blood, could it be developed naturally. They had been chatting for a long time. At this time, Emperor Qinqing suddenly stood up and bowed apologetically. Your sister went to Star World to train, but she was captured by that evil thief, Kong Teichu. It's my, Emperor Qinqing's, fault for not taking good care of her. However, Fairy, don't worry. This time, I will personally lead the army and bring your sister back safely. Not a single strand of her hair will be lost. Otherwise, I will allow Fairy to punish me. He was the lord of a realm, and he ruled over a vast territory with billions of subjects. His status was supreme, yet at this moment his attitude was humble before this woman, and he respected her as if she was a god. If this scene were to spread outside, it would probably shock a group of people, and none of the Jade Lake's cultivators would dare to believe it. However, the other nascent soul heavenly lords didn't show any disdain or confusion. They all thought it was reasonable. Because this woman was none other than Long Shengnan, the daughter of the Dragon Clan's sect master, the top orthodoxy in the ocean wave dimension. Besides, she had many other identities. She was the first person to form a 9th grade golden core in the ruins of deity and all the 2nd grade worlds in 300 years, the youngest nascent soul cultivator, and the overlord on the God of War list that the Emperor of the Ruins had personally named. An elite disciple of the inner sect of the Emperor of the Ruins Palace. Her 9 Dragons Emperor technique was an upper-grade technique that was not far from the Saint grade. It allowed her to condense a true dragon golden core, unleash a true dragon Dharma idol, and control thousands of dragons and beasts. She was as powerful as a nascent soul cultivator. She wasn't even 30 years old, but with her nascent soul cultivation, she had once subdued an imperishable orthodoxy that had rebelled against the Emperor of the Ruins. There were only a few young people as talented as her in the ruins of deity, not to mention the Jade Lake or the ocean wave dimension. That was why the Emperor of the Ruins had personally named her, and she had the honor of being listed on the God of War list of the ruins of deity with her nascent soul cultivation. Not only Long Shengnan, there were 2 servants standing behind her, a man and a woman. The man was tall and strong, like a mountain. His hair was twisted and coiled, which turned out to be black dragons. He apparently already had the power of a 3rd-level nascent soul cultivator. The girl was still young, but she had a voluptuous figure. Her appearance didn't match her age. Her skin was like ice and her bones were like jade. Her beauty was unparalleled, and she could be compared to the most eye-catching female cultivators in the Jade Lake realm. Her aura was deep and unfathomable. Facing Long Shengnan from the 2nd grade world, they were like a group of local officials facing a princess on an inspection tour. They were really scared, as if they were treading on thin ice. How would they dare to act recklessly? Even Duanmu Ling, the current family master of the Duanmu family, who had reached the half-step nascent soul level, took a few steps forward and knelt in front of the woman. He trembled and said, "According to our investigation, Goddess Yanin fell into the enemy's hands under the hands of my useless son, Duanmu Ci. The Duanmu family is guilty. Goddess Sheng, please punish us. Family Master Duanmu, please rise." Long Shengnan forced a smile and said gently, "When the nest is overturned, no egg can escape unscathed. The Jade Lake army was defeated. Even His Highness Lu He and the 4 nascent soul cultivators died bravely in battle. It's obvious that the enemy is fierce and powerful. You have done your best. It's not your fault. Thank you for not killing us, Goddess Shingen. From now on, the Duanmu family will fight for the ruins Emperor, Emperor Qing, and the Hailan world." Family Master Duanmu finally dared to rise. He secretly wiped the cold sweat on his forehead and secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Emperor Qin Qing's face was full of shame. His eyes were filled with anger. This defeat was too dismal. Most importantly, he had lost to an ant from Earth. It was the biggest joke in the world. It made him a laughingstock in the eyes of many experts. Although Long Xingnan was talented and had a high position, her words and actions were very appropriate. She was definitely not as arrogant and rude as her sister. She sipped her tea gently and said with a smile on her face, "You're right. Besides, Yanin has always been reckless and impulsive. She will get into trouble sooner or later. Being captured today is a rare lesson and experience for her. It will let her know that there is always someone better than her." At this moment, Emperor Qin Qing said in a low voice, "Goddess Xingnan, that Kong Teichu is just an ant from Earth. Yet, he has repeatedly offended the heavenly might. His crimes are unforgivable. This sinner has gathered his army and is preparing to attack Star World directly. However, even though he was born in a humble place, his strength is indeed not to be underestimated. The battle report shows that he is actually able to execute and break the Forbidden Region. Fairy Xingnan, please lend us a helping hand. Cut that Jiang Taichu into pieces and wipe out the Stellar Sky Domain and Earth Domain." He was the lord of a domain. He was like a god. He was supreme. However, at this moment, there was a hint of sincerity in his eyes. However, the many heavenly sect masters, family heads, and nascent soul cultivators were not surprised or shocked. Instead, they all looked at Long Xingnan. Their eyes were full of enthusiasm and anticipation. It was no wonder. This woman was not only a peerless talent on the war god list of the ruins of immortals, but also the most beautiful woman in the Hailan world. It was rumored that Su Xinghua, Jun Aojian, Chu Lianqing, and Xiao Ninhe, who were ranked at the top of the God of War list, were her confidants. They usually discussed Tao and treated each other with respect. They had a deep relationship, or they were madly in love with her. They wanted to win her favor and become her Tao companion. It could be said that this woman had a wide range of friends not only in the Hailan world, but also in the other 4 second-class dimensions and even the ruins of immortals. Emperor Qin Qing completely believed that as long as she was willing to go with the army, she could attract at least a few powerhouses on the war god list of the ruins of immortals. The conditions to be on the war god list were harsh. Generally, one had to live less than 300 years and be at least in the nascent soul realm. They were the young talents of the ruins of immortals and the future mainstays. These overlords on the war god list might not be comparable to late-stage nascent soul overlords like Emperor Qin Qing, or even living fossils like Hu Shi and Duanmu Guang. However, they were all from heavenly lord families or the unparalleled heavenly sect. Some of them even had soul formation overlords in the imperishable sections. They were the future and the seeds of their families and were extremely precious. Once they went out, their sects would send nascent soul heavenly lords to protect them. In this way, the forces involved would be 10 times more powerful. It could be said that as long as Long Xingnan followed the army into battle, she would be able to win a great battle with a small group of nascent soul powerhouses. It was equivalent to 2 or 3 worlds like the Jade Lake attacking Jiang Tian together. At that time, It would be a dimensional reduction attack and a crushing momentum. Emperor Qin, you're making a big deal out of nothing. Long Shengnan said gently. The competition between cultivation forces is different from that in the mortal world. You have to catch the leader first and only kill the leader. We don't want to turn the mortal world upside down, shatter the mountains and rivers, burn the land and make the people miserable. We shouldn't suppress the ants of the mortal world by force. Instead, we should be soft and benevolent. On the other hand, as long as we kill Kong Techu, the stellar sky domain and the earth domain will be leaderless and collapse without a fight. Then we can use the art of benevolence to make those stragglers and mortals feel grateful and obedient. This way, we can achieve twice the result with half the effort and achieve long-term stability. Therefore, this time, I plan to personally meet Jiang Taichu, who you all have been talking about as a god. Long Xingnan's gentle face revealed a trace of terrifying killing intent at this moment. When the time comes, I'd like to see what kind of evil tricks he will use to break my supreme forbidden region. Her clear, beautiful eyes were full of killing intent. Her voice was sonorous like the sound of a sword. She straightened her body and her whole person was like a peerless heavenly sword unsheathed, showing its sharpness as if it could cut through the heavens and sweep across thousands of worlds. Chapter 1357. But the next moment, Long Xingnan picked up the teacup, took a sip, and said with a smile, "As for what the Jade Lake will do, it's a subordinate world of the Western Desert after all. The Hailan world can't interfere. If you want to kill to vent your anger, I won't stop you." "Fairy Xingnan, what are you talking about? The Western Desert is already weak. What right do you have to order me around? I'll listen to all of your orders." Emperor Qin said politely, and then smiled. "You're right, Fairy Xingnan. This time, I'll cooperate with Kong Techu. I heard that Kong Techu has closed the portal to the Kanglan realm, Chia realm, and Stellar Sky realm." Long Xingnan asked. "Humph, I guess he's scared." Emperor Qin snorted and said with disdain, "This bastard sent a message, saying that he will come to the Jade Lake within a month and fight with me to see who is better. He's talking big, but he's telling the truth. The portal to the three realms has been closed." Long Shengnan took a sip of tea, thought for a while, and suddenly stood up and said, "How about this? Close the portal to the Jade Lake realm in the Kanglan realm, Chia realm, and Stellar Sky realm. In this way, he can only go to the Jade Lake through the Dragon Gate world. I'll go to the Dragon Gate world to kill him." Emperor Qin waved his hand and asked for all the information about Jiang Tian, including a vivid portrait. But he was still worried. "Fairy Xingnan, although Kong Techu was born in a backward planet, he's unimaginably powerful. He can fight against a nascent soul realm cultivator as a golden core realm cultivator. Many people suspect that he's the reincarnation of a nascent soul realm cultivator or even a soul formation realm cultivator. You have to be careful." "Don't worry, uncle." Long Shengnan smiled and stepped out. She turned into a beam of golden light and flew toward the portal. "My sister is in his hands. I'll be careful and think of a foolproof plan. I won't act rashly." And Jiang Tian had come out of seclusion. There was a loud rumble. The warm jade spirit vein within a radius of 10 miles crumbled and turned into dust. The earth caved in crazily, and huge ravines extended in all directions. The earth trembled as if it was about to crack open. Rumble. Divine General Gung Jin stood in the void with the sun and moon above his head. He was filled with the charm of eternal and unmoving laws. Even his outer appearance had changed significantly. He wore 12 crowns and a wide emperor's robe. He looked incomparably dignified. His eyes were like lightning and unstoppable. His feet seemed to be stepping on time, changing between time and space. The Gung metal godly body has finally reached perfection and evolved into the Golden Emperor immortal body. Jiang Tian let out a satisfied sigh. He opened his eyes wide and the divine light in his eyes seemed to be able to pierce through the sun and moon. "Kill." At this moment, the Golden Emperor immortal body stepped forward. Beneath his feet, the void exploded and the ground caved in, forming a huge crater with a radius of 10 miles. A terrifying sharpness that could slash through the heavens and pierce through all worlds erupted from his body, instantly sweeping across the entire Chino world. At this instant, the countless dangerous mountains and steep ridges within 50 kilometers were all slashed apart at the waist. Rumbling explosions resounded incessantly, and the entire continent seemed as if it was about to completely collapse. At this moment, countless beasts were frightened and frothed at the mouth. Their bodies twitched crazily. Many cultivators knelt on the ground and trembled. They said, "Long live the heavenly Lord, long live the Lord." Oh God! Bai Zhe, Zhang Qianlei, and Ding Lingdang were dumbfounded. At this time, Jiang Tian's divine body took a step forward, and the power it displayed was 10 times more terrifying than Hushi's heavenly blade. Thanks to the time array disc and the elixirs Jiang Tian gave them, Bai Zhe and Zhang Qianlei advanced rapidly. Bai Zhe had already reached the first level of the nascent soul level, and Zhang Qianlei had successfully formed a golden core. They felt that their strength had skyrocketed, as if they had the help of God. They seemed to have the power to tear the sky and destroy the continent. But at this moment, facing the golden Thearcha's immortal body, they felt like ants facing a mountain. They couldn't move Jiang Tian at all. What a terrifying nascent soul formation! Even a perfected nascent soul cultivator can't move such a terrifying nascent soul formation. Even Long Yanan was terrified and sucked in a breath of cold air. At this moment, she felt that Chen Liuhe, ancestral patriarch binding sun, Duan Muguang, and the others deserved to lose. Such a terrifying existence had never been heard of, even in the ruins of deity. Her sister, Long Xingnan, was extremely talented, but she wasn't even this terrifying when she formed her nascent soul. Only 10 miles were affected. Master still has a lot of spirit medicines and spirit pills. Why doesn't he break through to the nascent soul level immediately? He can already fight against nascent soul cultivators when he's at the first level of the golden core level. If he reaches the nascent soul level, he won't even be afraid of the ruins emperor, right? This thought uncontrollably appeared in Lei Sen's mind, which frightened him. Not long ago, in his mind, even Emperor Qinqing was an unshakable existence, let alone the ruins emperor. But today, he actually came up with such a crazy idea, like a mouse seriously considering how to kill a fierce tiger. How would he know? If Jiang Tian wanted to break through to the nascent soul level, it would be extremely easy. But the formation of the 9 orifices divine infant was like the formation of the chaotic golden core. The conditions were extremely harsh. The 9 orifices divine infant had to be formed by breaking the core and forming the nascent soul with 9 supreme golden cores that had reached the nascent soul level. If Jiang Tian broke through to the nascent soul level with any of his divine bodies, he would have to stop his cultivation arts and drop his cultivation level to the nascent soul level before he could form the 9 orifices divine infant. Jiang Tian naturally would not do such a foolish thing. It was a strenuous and unrewarding task. Swish! Jiang Tian retracted his golden the arch-immortal body and turned into a calm young man with an ordinary energy. He scanned his golden core divine disc with his immortal will. In the golden core of the chaotic divine disc, the dazzling galaxy that represented the gung metal divine body and the golden core was no longer illusory and ethereal. Moreover, the formation of the river of stars was no longer random and scattered. Instead, it formed a golden illusory image of an emperor. Layers of golden stars were embedded like rivets. They were like layers of dragon scales, forming a terrifying heavenly saber that the golden emperor held in his hand. The heavenly blade was unusually sharp, as if it could break the sun and the moon and pierce the sky. It represented the supreme golden laws of gung metal and turned into a true law seal. Good, good, good. Jiang Tian nodded and said, "The divine disc is done. The golden the arch-immortal body has become the golden the arch-immortal body, and I've formed the nascent soul level. I've finally built the first foundation for forming the 9 orifices divine infant. Master, you've broken through again." Then, ancestral patriarch True Dragon and the other 4 cultivators flew over from the teleport array and exclaimed excitedly. Meanwhile, They all felt that the immortal and indestructible aura on Jiang Tian's body was more than 10 times stronger than before. Jiang Tian nodded slightly. Then, his eyes flashed as he said with a smile, "Have you taken down the deep tide world?" "Master, we didn't disappoint you. We've taken it down. There's a second-level nascent soul heavenly lord of fire from the Jade Lake. The four of us worked together to kill him." Ancestral Patriarch Lotus knelt on the ground and said. His chest was stained with blood. The inch-long wound still hadn't healed even now. There was a killing glyph formation flickering incessantly there. Boundless magic power was circulating, constantly opening up the wound. The remaining cultivators of the Kanglan world who surrendered to the Jade Lake were mostly Golden Core cultivators and Foundation Establishment cultivators. There were only a few Golden Core cultivators. We didn't encounter any resistance. On the other hand, Nether River's left arm had been burned dry, and his life force had been cut off. With ordinary healing pellets, it would take him at least 20 years to recover. We appeared as the reinforcements of the Taichu Dominator. The remaining overlords of the Kanglan world are grateful to the Taichu Dominator. The Emperor of the Kanglan dynasty, perfected immortal Wu Miao, hopes that the Taichu Dominator can visit the Kanglan world and preach. Ancestral Patriarch Takong's speed was the fastest in the world and he was the only one who wasn't injured. But when he recalled the terrifying power of the Heavenly Lord of Fire, he was still scared. It was the first time for the four Ancestral Patriarchs to fight against a nascent soul overlord. Now, they truly understood the power of a nascent soul overlord. The Heavenly Lord of Fire could control the fire of the 9 heavens and burn the sky. Ancestral Patriarch Takong first used the concealment art taught by Jiang Tian to activate the Kuanping bloodline and quickly sneak up on him, severely injuring his Dan Tian and leaving him half dead. Then, the four of them attacked together. They still had to pay the price in blood. Although the four of them had experienced a hard battle and were severely injured, they smiled with satisfaction. Their hearts were full of pain, as if they were drinking wine. They were arrogant and unruly, and had always been the rebels of the ruins of immortality. However, the difference in strength was too great, so they hid in the Thunder Lock to avoid the world. They raised the Thunder Centipede Divine Beast, hoping to raise a peerless expert to attack them. They had always been angry. Now, they could finally fight against the overlords of Jade Lake and kill a nascent soul overlord. It really made them feel very satisfied and happy. However, in addition to joy and satisfaction, their respect, admiration, and fear for Jiang Tian were much stronger. They had all stepped into the first level of the nascent soul overlord, but the four of them still found it very difficult to kill a second-level nascent soul overlord. Jiang Tian was only at the first level of the Golden Core realm. Killing Duanmu Guang and the four nascent soul overlords was as easy as chopping vegetables. This allowed them to understand the huge gap between them and Jiang Tian. Instantly, they felt as if they were looking up to a tall mountain, and feelings of admiration arose spontaneously. Jiang Tian asked the four of them to get up and looked at Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon with a frown. He smiled and said, "True Dragon, you don't seem happy. What's wrong?" "Master, I heard the news in the Kanglan world. The Dragon Gate world has been completely taken over by the overlords of Jade Lake and Hylon world. My children have been killed or exiled. They've completely withered away." True Dragon Patriarch said with tears in his eyes, his face full of anger and sorrow. "Since you're my servant, I have to protect the Dragon Gate world. Don't worry, I'll do it." Hearing that, Jiang Tian's eyes turned cold and a terrifying killing intent shot to the sky. The wind and clouds in 100-mile radius danced and the terrifying energy made the earth tremble. Chapter 1358. Back then, Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon was the lord of the Dragon Gate world and was comparable to Emperor Chen Qing in the ruins of deity system. However, he was rebellious and didn't want to serve the ruins emperor, so he hid in the Dragon Gate world. 1,000 years ago, when he left, he wanted to take his son and many other descendants with him, but Ao Bo refused. Ancestral patriarch True Dragon left in anger and hadn't returned to the Dragon Gate world for 1,000 years. But now, Aobo was facing a fatal disaster. Under the suppression of Hylon and Jade Lake, the True Dragon bloodline had withered. Back then, my useless son said that he stayed in the Dragon Gate to become the master of a world, not for fame and power, but to protect the roots of the True Dragon Ao family. I didn't believe him. But now, I know I misunderstood him. Ancestral patriarch True Dragon said with tears in his eyes. At that time, the overlords of the ruins of deity and the Hylon world had invaded the Dragon Gate world for 1,000 years and their rule was impregnable. Be it True Dragon or Aobo, they didn't have a chance to resist and only death awaited them. Aobo's strategy was to surrender on the surface and not resist violently, but not cooperate when attacking the 4th-level dimensional world and repairing the ancient teleport array, to act as a buffer for the invasion of the ruins of deity. But this time, Chen Bahuang, the special envoy of Jade Lake, who was a half-heavenly lord, killed Aobo and replaced him with someone else. Then, Sun Bojun, a special envoy of the Hylon world, also attacked and killed tens of thousands of cultivators of the Dragon Gate world, severely injuring the natives of the Dragon Gate world. Sun Bojun used to belong to the sea monsters. He was talented and powerful, but he was only a golden core cultivator back then and I injured him with one attack. The old man left after signing a contract with him to guarantee the independence of the Dragon Gate world. I didn't expect him to go back on his words. Ancestral patriarch True Dragon gritted his teeth and said, "When you were around, they kept their promise. But you disappeared for a few hundred years, so it's normal for them to break the contract. The point is that the Ao family blocked their way to attack Earth." After Jiang Tian finished speaking, he slowly closed his eyes. When he opened them again, they were already cold. How about the teleportation formation to the Jade Lake? It's been shut down. Bai Zhe rolled his eyes and said gloomily, "I wanted to conquer the Sea of Stars. Killing my way to the Jade Lake was the first step. Who would have thought that after activating the teleportation array several times, there would be no reaction at all? Qing Di is so cunning. But the teleportation portal to the Dragon Gate world is still open." Hearing this, Long Yanen's eyes flashed with a cold light. She seemed to have sensed something, but she immediately lowered her head to hide it. This is a trap. Jiang Tian turned his head and glanced at her. He pondered for a moment and then sneered. There must be experts from Hylon world and Jade Lake world waiting for us to enter the Dragon Gate world. However, this time, we know that there are tigers on the mountain, but we still want to go to the mountain. Liansheng, you will oversee the Qiyi, Songlan, and Tianxing worlds. Jiang Tian said coldly with a murderous look on his face. Ta Kong, Mingyi, Zhenlong, and the Black Dog, come with me to the Dragon Gate world. If the Dragon Gate world is lost, I'm afraid it won't be long before Yingzhou, Baiming, and Penglai worlds are taken down. Ta Kong came from Penglai world and had the bloodline of the Kuan-Peng. He was the overlord of the Ta Kong mountain, while Mingyi old ancestor came from the Netherworld sect in Baiming. Both of them were famous figures and traders of the ruins of immortality. Jiang Tian planned to push them to become the masters of their respective dimensional worlds this time, turning these 4-dimensional worlds, and even the Hylon world, into a strong fortress to guard Earth. Bai Zhe frowned and shouted anxiously, "Brother Taichu, how can you conquer the Sea of Stars without me? Even a beast like the big black dog can go, so why can't I?" The black dog said gloomily, "How can you discriminate against me? I have the bloodline of the dragon race, so I should go to the Dragon Gate world to be respected." Zhang Qianlei also said with a murderous aura, "Jiang Tian, you can't not bring me. The Jade Lake world killed countless disciples of the Imperial Thunder sect. I want to settle the score with them." Even Ding Lingdang said that she wanted to go. Her cultivation was not high, so she could only say that she wanted to take care of Jiang Tian's life. Long Yanen showed a smug smile, as if Jiang Tian was walking into a trap and would definitely die. Jiang Tian raised his hand and slapped her, causing her nose to bleed. He sneered. "Ding Lingdang, the chaos in the Qi field and Kanglan worlds has just ended. I still need your help to rebuild." With this servant taking care of my life, everything will be fine. As for Bai Zhe and Qianlei, follow me. The Qi field world was not conducive to Zhang Qianlei's cultivation. Although Jiang Tian had taught him the technique of generating electricity out of thin air, and he had advanced several levels, Jiang Tian thought that it would be better to bring him to the Dragon Gate world, which was filled with dense clouds and abundant water vapor. If you dare to make a mistake, I'll just kill you. The large black dog looked at Long Yanan, took out a small booklet, and began to write and draw on it. He laughed and said, "Don't think that the Dragon Gate can save you. Recently, I've been writing a book on human pets, specifically to keep cultivators like you, who abuse the demon race, as pets." He did not have a good impression of Long Yanan. The techniques of the Dragon Gate were used to kill and restrain flood dragons, yellow dragons, and other dragon-type monsters. Many of Long Yanan's accessories and magic tools were made from dragon bones and dragon teeth. After the discussion, Jiang Tian immediately prepared to set off to check the teleportation formation. The Qi field world was also the territory of the Dragon Gate world. The teleportation formation to the Dragon Gate world had always been open. These days, there had been refugees from the Qi field world who did not accept Jiang Tian's rule going to the Dragon Gate world. Jiang Tian allowed them to do as they pleased. They only needed to pay a certain amount of crystal stones, all for today. The Dragon Gate world was the same as the Jade Pool. It had completely left the solar system and reached the outer region of the Southern Gate Double Star region. This teleportation formation was different from the ones from Earth to the fourth level world or between the fourth level worlds. It was a large-scale teleportation formation. The teleportation disk was like a huge stone platform with a majestic aura. It had a radius of 10 miles and was engraved with many profound and complicated runes. These runes came from the hands of the ancient powerhouses. This was the legacy left behind by the Sheng and Ao sovereigns. It was completed before they wandered the universe. On it, there were ancient bronze warships or disc-shaped flying objects. They were covered in green bronze and even mottled with moss. They were very ancient and had not been used for a long time. On this day, a group of people landed on the ancient teleportation formation. Jiang Tian was dressed in a white robe. His black hair was tied up with a golden crown. He appeared with a folding fan in his hand. He looked like an elegant young master. Azure Dragon, Mingyi, and Ta Kong were dressed in green and wore small hats. They looked like loyal old servants. Long Yanan had also washed away her impurities. She was dressed in plain clothes and looked down. She looked like a servant who had been bullied. She gritted her teeth and glared at Jiang Tian fiercely. Bai Zhe took off his feathered robe and star crown. He was dressed as a page boy. He frowned and rolled his eyes. He was very unhappy with his appearance. However, for his long-cherished wish to go to the Starry Sea, he could only bear with it. This time, in order to avoid alerting the enemy and to take the initiative, Jiang Tian and the others disguised themselves. They entered the Dragon Gate world as a fallen young master from a large cultivation sect in the Qi field world. Sigh, only a return to void stage or Dao integration stage cultivator can create an interstellar teleportation formation. The Sheng Emperor and the other ancestors were very impressive. I wonder if the Sheng Emperor and the others had thought of this day when they built the teleportation formation. Jiang Tian looked around. He had a lot of emotions in his eyes. The ancient ancestors like the Sheng Emperor and the Ao Emperor couldn't move the deity ground, the islands, and the ancient earths together. They could only use the teleportation formations separately. However, they hoped that the descendants of the ancient earths would still be an inseparable whole even if they wandered to the outer realms. So, they built the teleportation formations so that they could communicate with each other. However, they didn't expect the ruins of deity and the multidimensional worlds to be invaded by the ruins emperor. They also didn't expect that tens of thousands of years later, a group of roots from the abandoned earth would rise to the sky and help them reclaim their homeland. These roots and veins were like sparks of fire. They rose with the light, but they were like inextinguishable kindling. The kindling ignited the grass ignited the shrubs, and the shrubs spread to the big trees. In the end, this tiny kindling would set off a prairie fire, illuminating the entire dark universe forest and illuminating the myriad worlds. In the eyes of the spectators, the spatial passageway was extremely majestic. Of course, the energy crystals needed for each teleportation were also massive. Jiang Tian was now the ruler of this world. With an order, he should have the power to topple mountains and overturn seas. All kinds of precious crystals filled the teleportation formations and activated them. Absolute Primordium Ruler, take care. Ding Lai, Jiang Yunhe, the leaders of the Stellar Sky Domain, the leaders of the major sects and families in the Chia world, and even the special envoys from the Kanglan world all came to see him off. Ding Lai's eyes were solemn. Ding Lingdong's eyes were also filled with tears. Her body was trembling. This was the first time since Jiang Tian returned that he had traveled through space across galaxies. He had traversed billions of miles, a distance of 4 light-years, and finally arrived at the outer region of the Southern Gate twin stars. The future was boundless, full of dangers and the unknown. Jiang Tian was originally a human from Earth. However, he was risking his life today to fight for Earth and for them. Absolute Primordium Ruler, don't worry. We'll protect the 3-dimensional worlds and be the last fortress of Earth. Jiang Yunhe had been tempered by the flames of war and had become deep and strong. He waved his hand and said. Jiang Tian glanced at the crowd and said with a faint smile, I'm sorry. Don't worry. I won't return until I slay the Ruins Emperor. In 3 years, this battle will end. This star domain will be peaceful for thousands of years. The first step to conquering the Sea of Stars has finally been taken today. Bai Zhe calmed his emotions. He wasn't afraid. Instead, his eyes were filled with anticipation and excitement. He rubbed his palms and was eager to try. Chapter 1359. It was Bai Zhe's first time walking out of this world, and it was his first step out of the solar system. It would be strange if he wasn't excited. We're going on our way. The large black dog shouted excitedly. We're going to the Dragon Gate, Hylon, and the Ruins of Immortality. I'm going to take the Azure the Arch as my pet, the Ruins Emperor as my mount, and eat 10,000 golden cores to grow fat. Everyone walked into a space aircraft that looked like a flying saucer. Only Jiang Tian was left outside. He scanned the people who were sending him off and smiled. Fellow Taoists, I'll leave Earth to you. At this moment, he actually felt a little reluctant. He was from Earth, but he had formed deep friendships with many cultivators from Stellar Sky Domain. Many cultivators from Stellar Sky Domain were like the humans on Earth. They were full of iron and blood and fought for freedom. They were unwilling to be slaves or servants. No matter how high or low their cultivation was, Jiang Tian would not look down on them because of that. Without their protection, Earth might have been lost long ago. Take me with you. Don't go, big brother Jiang. Xiao Yingluo cried out in tears, but she was forcefully dragged away by Qiao Beishan. Qiao Beishan's eyes were slightly red as he said seriously, besides, the stinky monkey, Jiang Haishan, Goddess Miyu, and so many other Taoists died under the Jade Pool's cannon fire. The Grand Primordium Ruler is going to take revenge for them. Using martial arts to stop killing, using killing to stop war. The Grand Primordium Ruler is doing this to prevent billions of lives from being destroyed. His merit is boundless. Zen Master Dashin was no longer as skinny as before. He had already become fat, and his body was huge. His expression was compassionate, and his appearance was solemn. After experiencing the cruel war, the suppression of his sect, and the betrayal of his friends, he seemed to have been reborn. His Buddhist heart was even firmer, and his state of mind was more peaceful. His understanding of Buddhism had also reached a new level. He already had the bearing of a great master and was the #1 leader of the Buddhist sects in the 3 realms. Big Brother Jiang is taking the initiative to attack for the safety of this world. Besides, he can't go any further in these worlds. Beside him, Fairy Miao Yi also comforted him gently. Her eyes were very calm, hiding the reluctance in her heart. If Jiang Tian wanted to complete the 9 transformations of the divine disc and form the nascent soul, he would need a lot of resources. These 4th-level dimensional worlds, and even the world of Earth with its spirit chi recovery could no longer support Jiang Tian's cultivation. The spirit chi and resources were far from enough. But when she turned her head away, tears were already flowing down her cheeks. Jiang Tian was her beautiful dream. Once upon a time, she was deeply in love with Jiang Tian. However, Jiang Tian already had a Dao companion, and by a freak combination of factors, he was destined to have no fate with her in this lifetime. She now understood that she wasn't worthy of Jiang Tian, so she hid this admiration in the depths of her heart. Sigh, what a pity. The flames of war were in full swing ahead. Time waited for no one. I can't even return to Earth to say goodbye to Qing'er and Beibei. Looking at the blue planet outside the strict world membrane, Jiang Tian revealed a look of deep longing and reluctance. Then, his eyes were filled with boundless determination as he stepped into the disc-shaped flying device. Scarlet Field Galaxy Teleportation Array, Power Array Pattern Detected, no cracks. Scarlet Field Galaxy Teleportation Array, Teleportation Coordinates Detected, no errors. Scarlet Field Galaxy Teleportation Array, Expedition Space Flying Device, no errors. The heroes of Heavenly Star, Songlan, and Scarlet Field, the leaders of many great sects and powerful countries, and the heads of various sects and clans were all standing around the teleportation array. Their expressions were solemn as they looked at the disc-shaped flying device with reverence. In the entire Universal Pier, the powerful voice of an array master could be heard from the teleportation array platform. Scarlet Field Galaxy Teleportation Array, ignited for the 198th time, teleporting to the Dragon Gate world. Activate the reaction furnace, ignite. Following the last calm and indifferent voice of the Scarlet Field Engineering Department official, the 55 reaction furnaces were fully activated. Immediately, many runes on the teleportation array platform lit up dazzlingly, as if a sun had risen out of thin air. All of the world-breaking and advancement arrays were activated at the same time. The gigantic bronze disc-shaped space flying device slowly rose into the sky as a heart-palpitating power was emitted, causing the space to fluctuate violently. At this moment, everyone felt their vision turn black as their senses were completely shut off. They lost all sound, senses, and colors. Between heaven and earth, only the dazzling teleportation array platform and the small black dot above it remained, the disc-shaped flying device. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. When the light of the teleportation array platform gradually disappeared, everyone saw the final shocking scene. At that moment, the world was in chaos, the mountains and rivers were boiling, the light of the stars and the sun was distorted, and the world barrier that was originally suspended high up in the sky seemed to be pulled infinitely closer by the teleportation array platform. An extremely thin and long spike caved in inwards, touching the bronze disc-shaped space-flying device. This spike was crystal clear, one end wrapped around the bronze flying device, and the other end extended towards the vast starry sky and the deep universe. Even with Lotus Life Tathagata's nascent soul divine sense, he still couldn't scan the end, as if it was endless and boundless. This is the world whole. It belongs to the same substance as the space barrier and the world membrane, and it binds the world membrane of the two worlds together. Lotus Life Tathagata's face was shocked as he said in a solemn voice. Suddenly, there was a whoosh. The inwardly sunken world membrane, like a fully drawn bow, quickly bounced back. The bronze flying device was like an arrow that had left the bow, shooting straight into the sky and suddenly disappearing from everyone's sight. He's gone. After all, he doesn't belong to this world. Qiao Yingluo's body stiffened as she looked up at the world barrier that had already returned to normal. Her tears surged as she said in a daze. He will always belong to this world. No matter how far he goes, the Earth domain and the Stellar Sky domain will always be the places he dreams of, his foundation and homeland. Beside her, Fairy Miao Yi gently advised, as if comforting herself. In the depths of the universe hundreds of millions of miles away from the star world, there was no moonlight in the distance, and the stars were shining brightly. Nearby, however, there was only loneliness and coldness. All of a sudden, a blue ray of light flashed past. This green light was surrounded by a translucent tunnel, like a glass tube. However, as the green light flashed, the translucent tunnel suddenly disappeared, as if it had never existed. The South Gate star field was the closest star system to the solar system. There were no other stars between the two, only endless darkness, dried-up asteroids, and meteorites of all sizes. In the process of passing through the world hole, the flow of time was very distorted and chaotic. Sometimes, it was just a few seconds, but it felt like a century had passed, so long that it was maddening. Sometimes, it was indescribably fast, as if 100 years had passed in a hurry. This was a lonely universe, shuttling between two star systems. There was no sound at all, and it was so quiet that it was maddening. Everyone could only communicate with their divine senses and encourage each other. Sometimes, when passing through some areas with abnormal gravitational fields, even their divine senses would be cut off and weakened. HM? What's that? There was a patch of chaos in front of them. It was misty, as if a glass of expired milk had been poured on top of pearl-like velvet. Bai Zai's divine senses swept over and could not help but be amazed. Interstellar dust belt. We're not far from the Dragon Gate world, or the South Gate star field. Jiang Tian had actually discovered this before Bai Zai. This dust belt was very vast, and there was no need to use divine senses at all. It could be seen through the crystal window with the naked eye. The so-called dust belt was the remains of solid matter that had not yet formed into a celestial body the size of a planet. It was made up of a large number of rocks, ice, mixtures, dust particles, and so on. From the smallest dust particle to a few kilometers in diameter asteroids, everything was in it. This dust belt was discovered by the ALMA Observatory in Chile on Earth last year using the world's most expensive astronomical radio telescope. According to scientists' observations, this dust belt was 1 light-year away from the South Gate star field. Its total mass was about 1% of Earth's mass, and its temperature was about -230 degrees Celsius. It could be imagined as the Kuiper belt outside the solar system. The solar system was only 4 light-years away from the South Gate star field, which was equivalent to more than half of the interstellar journey. HM? What's this? Suddenly, Jiang Tian was shocked. Thousands of neatly arranged hollow marks appeared in an area of the dust belt, like sharp swords pointing in the direction of the solar system. Are these traces caused by human travel? Jiang Tian's eyes widened, and there was a trace of inexplicable uneasiness in his heart. For example, this dust belt was like a snowy land, and aircraft were like pedestrians. Once they passed through, they would leave footprints. Could it be that after we closed the world hole, the South Gate star field started to not use the world hole, but a more primitive, simpler, and violent method of interstellar travel to advance towards Earth? Jiang Tian's eyes flickered as he imprinted the situation of these interstellar dust ribbons deeply into his mind and murmured with his divine sense. What should we do? Hearing this, everyone was shocked and their divine senses trembled. Ordinary people, even astrophysicists, would find it unbelievable. However, as long as they reached 1% of the speed of light, it would only take them 400 years to travel across the 2 galaxies with their physical body. And the lifespan of a soul formation cultivator could reach 5,000 years or even longer. They could totally afford it. Besides, the cultivation world had many methods to condense blood and stop lifespan, petrify, and hibernate. They could also use flying Dharma artifacts. Also, it was impossible to determine when the traces on these dust belts were made. If they were made hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of years ago, Earth could be in danger at any time. Chapter 1360. After all, Earth had just recovered its spirit chi. Only nascent soul cultivator, Lian Sheng, was guarding the area. The rest were all golden core and false core cultivators. In the immortal ruins, there were countless nascent soul cultivators, soul formation cultivators, and even more ancient beings. They weren't even on the same level. It was like a 3-year-old fighting against Mike Tyson. How could they not be frightened? How could they not be worried? I've never noticed those dust belts either. I used to travel through the world passage. Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon and the others were confused and shocked. Although they lived in the dimension of the South Gate binary star system, they knew nothing about that. Jiang Tian turned a deaf ear to it and fell into deep thought. What was the Ruins Emperor planning? Why were they eyeing Earth covetously? The arrival of the ancient deities, the beginning of interstellar wandering, the Ruins Emperor's invasion of the deity ground and the arrival of the white-robed deity 30 years ago, and the fiend fetus being conceived were just occasional occurrences, or were they closely related to each other? Was it a scheme set up by someone behind the scenes? Jiang Tian looked at the dust belts with deep eyes as if he were looking at fog. There are two sides to this. We have to be calm. After we reach the immortal ruins, everything will be revealed one day. In the end, Jiang Tian comforted everyone and put those thoughts behind him. In his previous life, after Jiang Tian became a soul formation cultivator, he had used a flying ship given to him by his master to break through space and return to Earth. Although Earth had gone through some twists and turns back then and there had been a few technological explosions, at least it was still in a safe state and hadn't reached the point of civilization destruction. Jiang Tian's return in this life might have triggered some butterfly effects, but those changes were limited to Earth and a few low-level dimensions. They didn't extend beyond the stellar system and weren't enough to change the trajectory of interstellar history. It seems that we're about to enter the boundary of another world. After some time, Jiang Tian suddenly said in a deep voice. In front of them, the void was shaking violently and the world passage was mottled. All kinds of colors flickered dreamily. The runes inside the flying saucer flickered violently, releasing thousands of rays of light and auspicious colors as if it were about to collapse. Everyone also felt the extreme distortion and pulling force of the space, as if it was about to fall apart. Master, lay down the myriad stone cauldron. The true dragon ancestor warned with experience. Jiang Tian's eyes flashed and he summoned the myriad stone cauldron, causing it to float in the air. In an instant, countless strands of the primordial chaos aura descended like threads, and it firmly enveloped all of them as a precaution. It's the Dragon Gate world. True Dragon Patriarch's voice was choked with emotion. After thousands of years, he'd finally returned to his homeland. He was overwhelmed with emotions, and he was unable to express them with words. How could he not be excited and emotionally moved? Everyone looked over in shock. At the edge of a vast and desolate galaxy, a vast and wondrous world could be seen from afar. This world was extremely vast, with a radius of at least tens of thousands of miles. It was actually a body of water that floated in the desolate universe. Flood dragons, sea snakes, and other huge sea beasts were swimming in the vast ocean. There were many strange peaks that protruded above the water surface, forming many deity islands. These islands were scattered all over the place, and they were steep and strange. Vast and bright essence chi gushed out, and spirit springs fell like waterfalls. Clouds were rising, and in the foggy spirit chi, there were spirit beasts flying and beasts roaring. There were even cultivators flying across the sky on their swords from time to time. The spirit chi here is much denser than in our fourth-level dimension. True Dragon, how could you bear to leave? Bai Zhe exclaimed with a yearning look on his face. Arriving in this world meant that they had stepped out of the solar system and belonged to the Southern Gate star system. It was the first step to conquering the Sea of Stars, which made him very excited. True Dragon Patriarch was speechless and looked sad. Things had changed. His dynasty had been destroyed, and his descendants had been killed or exiled. It was a great sorrow to see his children die before him. At that moment, he regretted not running away. He should have stayed in this world and fought the Ruins Emperor and Azure the Archchin to the death. Boom! Boom! The flying saucer shook violently and shattered into countless pieces by the gravity of the world membrane. Everyone felt their vision darken as the scenery before them changed rapidly. When the scenery stabilized, they realized that they had landed on a desolate island. Where is this? Bai Zhe looked around. The stars were bright, and there was no moon. The island was more than 10 miles wide, and it was empty. Only the roars of low-level beasts could be heard from afar. The grass nearby swayed, and there were butterflies the size of washbasins dancing. Their bronze flying saucer had shattered into pieces and fallen into the sea. This is Butterfly Island. The spirit chi is lacking and there are many beasts. It's desolate and uninhabited. However, the nearest flourishing island, Kuinsky Island, is only a few hundred miles away. We will know the situation of this world if we go there. True Dragon Patriarch knew the way and said in a deep voice. Kuinsky Island was one of the 7 core islands of the Dragon Gate world. It was also one of the 7 major cities of the True Dragon dynasty. With this island as the foundation, a magnificent and prosperous Kuinsky city was built. In this Kuinsky city, there was a famous royal chamber of commerce, the Cape Chamber of Commerce. It specialized in providing cultivation and daily necessities and treasures to the Ao family. Its president was Xie Yan. He had reached the early stage golden core hundreds of years ago and was a peer of True Dragon Patriarch. He was his childhood friend and was very loyal and reliable. Let's go. If the Xie Yan you mentioned is still here, then we will soon find out the current situation. Jiang Tian nodded. As he spoke, he turned into a dazzling golden rainbow and soared into the sky. None of the soldiers Jiang Tian brought with him this time were weak. They were all at the nascent soul realm, and their flying speed was extremely fast. They could easily break through several times the speed of sound. This was the result of Jiang Tian and the others deliberately suppressing their cultivation in order to not attract attention. Several rays of multicolored light left long afterimages on the surface of the sea. They cut through the waves and streaked across the sky, heading toward Kuintian Island. Soon, everyone arrived above Kuinsky Island. What a dreamlike city! The city spanned 50 kilometers. The roof was as huge as a mountain and was made of seashells, clam shells, and turtle shells. Most of the pillars were made of coral and embedded with basketball-sized pearls that emitted a gentle glow. On the streets, wine flags were waved and the lights were dazzling. Shrimp soldiers, shrimp generals, and fish-headed sea demons of all shapes and sizes walked, chatted, traded, and drank. It was terrifying yet adorable. If not for seeing it with one's own eyes, one would probably think it was a fairy tale world. The Dragon Gate world was originally dominated by the sea demons. To be precise, it was ruled by the sea flood dragons. The sea demons outnumbered humans by 10 times. But now, the ratio of humans seemed to be higher. However, many of these humans were not humans from ancient Earth. Instead, they were likely from the twin stars of the South Gate. They had high noses and deep eyes. Their hair was purple or green, and their eyes were deeper and colder. They should be the descendants of the Ruins Emperor. They have been in this world for many years. They have slowly infiltrated and are evolving peacefully. They want to dilute the bloodline of the sea demons. Eventually, this will be the Ruins Emperor's world. Jiang Tian's gaze was fixed as he sighed softly. The Ruins of Immortality was not a militaristic place. It also knew some conciliatory methods. Patriarch True Dragon and Old Black, follow me. The rest of you spread out to various parts of the city and gather information. The more, the better. Take note. It's not the time for the final battle yet. It's best to kill fewer people to avoid attracting attention. Jiang Tian ordered. Ta Kong, Mingyi, and Bai Zhe cupped their fists respectfully and dispersed silently. Jiang Tian, the big black dog, and Patriarch True Dragon escorted Long Yanan and flew towards the Kuinsky city's city lord manor. However, halfway there, Jiang Tian and True Dragon frowned. They saw that the surroundings of the Cape trading firm were heavily guarded. Sounds of fighting and killing could be heard from inside. Above Kuinsky City, Cape trading firm headquarters. Bang! 2 Dharma forms exchanged blows quickly. The power was astonishing. The moment one of the Dharma powers of the giant crab was destroyed, a man with a head full of white hair retreated rapidly, clutching his chest. Blood oozed out of his mouth, and the shadow of a giant crab appeared around him. It was obvious that he was barely holding on by burning his blood. Opposite him, a handsome but sinister-looking young man was about to follow up with another attack. Sha Qianqiu, stop. Below, a woman cried out in heartache. After hearing this, the handsome young man sighed helplessly and said, "Since Tingran has spoken, I'll spare your life." A trace of greed flashed in his eyes. He smiled at Xie Tingran and said, "Tingran, have you changed your mind and are willing to marry me? In your dreams. I won't go with you even if you beat me to death." Xie Tingran shouted with a cold expression. Then her eyes turned red. She looked at the tall young man beside her with tears in her beautiful eyes and said, "Huang Jing, could it be that you've also joined the dogs of the Billow World?" The tall young man, Huang Jing, looked ashamed, but when he thought of Sha Qianqiu's strength, he hardened his heart. "Miss Xie, the true dragon Ao family is completely finished. Why are you still stubbornly resisting?" "We didn't resist." At this moment, Xie Yan steadied himself and said angrily, "I'm just returning home. I'm just going to retire and return to my hometown. I'm just going to resign and become a commoner. But the ocean cover swordsman, Sun Bojun, forced me to be the city lord. Otherwise, he would kill my family. He's gone too far. Senior Xie, please show some respect. Sun Bojun is the imperial advisor of the Wanhai Empire. He's only below one person and above everyone else. What right do you have to call him by his name?" Sha Qianqiu's face turned cold. He shouted harshly. "Moreover, the imperial advisor's son asked you to be an official because he gave you face. But you didn't know how to appreciate his kindness and spoke rudely. If I don't kill you, who will I kill? Imperial advisor's son gave you many resources and techniques, and even promoted you. He said all kinds of nice things, but you're still stubborn and stubborn. If I don't kill you, who will I kill?" Chapter 1361. I'd rather die than be a slave to a fallen country. Xie Yan shouted angrily. This world belongs to the Ao family of the true dragon. It's also the roots of the Ao Emperor. Tens of thousands of years ago, the Ao Emperor led the ancestors to fight against the ruins of immortality and shed their blood. 1,000 years ago, the true dragon patriarch Ao Feng fell into an unknown world and cut ties with the ruins of immortality. As their descendants and people, we should respect the spirit of the ancestors and draw a line between us and trash like Sun Bojun. We should fight to the death with Hailan and the ruins of immortality. However, your Sha family was once an important official under the true dragon patriarch. Your bloodline was stimulated by the true dragon patriarch and your cultivation techniques were bestowed by him. Yet, you were ungrateful and attacked the patriarch's descendant, becoming the disciple of the patriarch's enemy, Sun Bojun. This old man has never seen someone as shameless as you. Bullshit. Sha Qianqiu interrupted with a sneer. Who is the true dragon patriarch? He's been dead for 1,000 years. Even his bones have melted. Who knows him? How dare you call me shameless? Old bastard, you've successfully infuriated me. Originally, I wanted to spare your life for Tingran's sake. But since you're so stubborn, I'll kill you. I'll make Xie Tingran the lowest servant and torture her every day. Sha Qianqiu, you're lying. The true dragon patriarch won't die. He'll definitely come back and avenge us. Xie Yan shouted angrily as he clutched his chest and spat out blood. I'm lying. Sha Qianqiu's face was full of mockery. You only know that Ao Feng went into seclusion. But do you know where he has gone? Ao Feng entered the Luai's realm through the Gate of Destinies. My ancestors saw it with their own eyes. And a year ago, we found Ao Wushuang's corpse in there. Although Ao Wushuang wasn't a direct descendant, he was still Ao Feng's descendant. If he was still alive, how could he sit back and watch his son be killed? He would either die in the mouth of Lei Meng or pass away in that chaotic realm. In short, there is no possibility of him returning. With every word Sha Qianqiu spoke, Xie Yan and Xie Tingran's faces grew paler. By the time he finished speaking, their faces were as white as paper and filled with despair. Huang Jing also sighed and tried to persuade him. Her words were sincere. Ancestor, young miss, today is different from usual. The emissary of the Billow Sea world took action to suppress them. The true dragon bloodline has been severed. Our world is in a precarious situation. Everyone has to forget the past and look to the future. I'm told that a lot of nascent soul stage cultivators and nascent soul stage cultivators have been sent to suppress and screen them one last time. Stubbornness will only lead to death. Xie Tingran lowered her head and didn't say a word. She bit her lip with her snow-white teeth, almost bleeding. At this moment, Sha Qianqiu sighed and softened his tone. Tingran, I also know that a forcibly picked melon is not sweet. As long as Senior Xie Yan agrees to take the position of City Lord, I will no longer force you. In the future, I will only care for you like an older brother. What do you think? Xie Yan clutched his dantian with a look of despair. Sha Qianqiu's cultivation was originally much lower than his, but after receiving benefits from Jade Lake and Billow Sea World, his cultivation had risen steadily. He was now at the peak stage of the Golden Core stage. Xie Yan, the servants and guards of his family were definitely not his match. Forget it. Forget it. I'll fight to the death with him and let Tingran escape. The Xie family is full of heroes. How can I give myself to an evil person like Jade Lake in Billow Sea World? With that thought, Xie Yan swallowed a healing pill. Determination appeared in his eyes. He wasn't afraid of death. At this moment, a cold voice suddenly sounded. Who said I died in the Thunderlock realm? Everyone looked up and saw. An old man in an old green robe, with horns on his head and a pair of clear eyes, was flying over. Behind him was a young man in luxurious clothes, holding a folding fan in his hand, and looking carefree and even sloppy. There was also a young woman in the prime of her youth who looked aggrieved and timid. Everyone's expression changed when they saw the old man. Who is he? Huang Jing blurted out with a panicked expression. Sha Qianqiu's expression changed drastically. His eyes were filled with extreme shock. You're finally back. Xie Yan, who was clutching his chest, burst into tears. He struggled to fall to the ground and kowtowed to the true dragon ancestor. Get up! Patriarch True Dragon stood proudly in the air, his expression dark. The entire City Lord Manor was filled with blood and corpses. It was filled with a cruel and murderous aura. More than half of Xie Yan's family had been killed. The rest had become Sha Qianqiu's captives and were controlled and guarded by cultivators. True Dragon, it seems that the world has changed greatly in the 1,000 years you were gone. Jiang Tian looked at the cultivators behind Sha Qianqiu with interest. They were all wearing robes with a ripple pattern embroidered on their chests. The ripple formed a giant hand holding a dragon. It was the symbol of the Dragon Gate cultivators in the Billow Sea World. But now, they were standing behind Sha Qianqiu to deal with the Dragon Gate. Master, it's the old man's fault. I shouldn't have placed my hopes on Lei Meng and avoided the world. I should have guarded this place without fear of death. Patriarch True Dragon's face reddened. Under the shocked gazes of the crowd, he bowed deeply to Jiang Tian and said respectfully, Master, please rest for a while. I'll ask about the current situation after I clean up the sect. Go. Since you're my servant, this world should be my territory. If someone is too strong for you, I'll help them. Jiang Tian landed on the roof of a hall and sat down lazily. He took out the Thunderfire wine and took a sip. Young master, please enjoy. Long Yanin, on the other hand, was like the most considerate servant girl. She arranged the dishes and stood behind Jiang Tian. What's going on? What kind of status and strength does this old man have? Why is he so respectful to this young man? Who is he? Sha Qianqiu was puzzled. Xie Tingran's mind was also in a mess. This young man didn't release any magic power. He either has a noble status or is skilled in concealing his aura. In short, our Dragon Gate world has hope again. Xie Yan's eyes shone brightly as he glanced at Jiang Tian. He clenched his fists and became spirited. Then he spoke with his spiritual sense. Patriarch, Sha Qianqiu is also involved in Aobo's death. Kill him. Sha Qianqiu, back then, you and your family received a lot of favors from me. Back then, you and your family swore to be loyal to the Ao family and fight for the Dragon Gate world forever. But you repaid kindness with enmity and attacked the Ao family. Kill yourself to atone for your sins. Patriarch True Dragon roared angrily, his eyes almost dripping blood. True Dragon, I respect you, so I call you senior. If I don't respect you, you're just a pile of old bones that should be stuffed into a coffin. What right do you have to ask me to kill myself? Sha Qianxiu waved his sleeves and stood with his hands behind his back. His face was cold and his eyes were full of disdain. He said, "Let me give you a piece of advice. If you know what's good for you, you'd better surrender and apologize to the imperial advisor. If you repent sincerely and become a slave forever, you might be able to keep your life." He had also carefully observed Patriarch True Dragon's cultivation. The powerful Patriarch True Dragon seemed to be only at the foundation establishment level. He must have been injured in the dangerous Thunderlock world, and his cultivation fell. Therefore, he didn't take Patriarch True Dragon seriously. The True Dragon Patriarch was so angry that he was about to explode. Suddenly, he straightened his back and his essence chi surged. He went from foundation establishment to golden core, late-stage golden core, nascent soul, and so on. At this moment, the sky changed color and the stars turned upside down. In his dantian, the dragon-shaped nascent soul roared and turned into a dragon god 100 feet tall with a dragon head and a human body. He slapped down with a sharp bone hook and a giant palm covered in dragon scales. What? He's a nascent soul cultivator. Sha Qianxiu was terrified. Before he could unleash half of his Dharma form, it was crushed by Patriarch True Dragon's palm. Then even his body and golden core were crushed. Before he died, he was still in disbelief, as if he had never thought that he would die in the hands of a true dragon. Nascent soul. Whether it was Huang Jing, the other Dragon Gate cultivators, or even the Hailon cultivators, they were all shocked to see this. Sha Qianxiu was the son of the giant Shark King and had been taught by overlords like Sun Bojun. However, he couldn't even withstand one attack from Patriarch True Dragon. How could they not be afraid? Only Xie Yan and Xie Tingran were elated. But, Patriarch True Dragon, please spare our lives. This was all ordered by the giant Shark King. We were just following orders. We didn't have the power to resist. The cultivators of Dragon Gate were scared out of their wits. They knelt down and begged for mercy. In fact, we have been waiting for your return. You were just pretending to be nice to him to preserve your strength. Now that you are back and have reached the nascent soul level, you can take back this world with a snap of your fingers. We are willing to follow you and kill the traitors like the Black Shark King, Sun Bojun, and the other cultivators of Jade Lake. We will make a contribution and shed our last drop of blood for the Dragon Gate world. Some of the cultivators of Dragon Gate said shamelessly and flew to Ao Feng like slaves meeting their master. The Dragon Blade Hall is the elite of the Dragon Gate dynasty. Without the orders of the Realm Lord, you can't command them. Sha Shouzhua is just the Lord of the Seven Islands. Why do you have to listen to him? You are just a coward. The True Dragon Patriarch was enraged. He killed until his eyes turned red and he smashed dozens of cultivators into pieces with a single palm. Jiang Tian finally noticed that the cultivators were carrying dragon-shaped sabers on their backs and wearing flying dragon robes. He thought that the Dragon Blade Hall was probably a special force like the Imperial Secret Service that only answered to the Ao family and the Emperor. When the remaining cultivators saw that he had gone mad, they knew that it was useless to beg for mercy, so they no longer begged for mercy. They stepped on their swords and turned around. Like a heavenly maiden scattering flowers, they fled in all directions like meteors. The True Dragon Patriarch was enraged. His body shook, and hundreds of basin-sized dragon scales shot out in all directions like shrapnel, spinning and slicing toward Yiqingyu. Chapter 1362. In the blink of an eye, many of the traders and cultivators from the Below Sea world were pierced through by the dragon scales. Not a single one escaped, and all of them died a violent death. Many dragon scales flew into the air and embedded themselves into the True Dragon Patriarch's body. After that, his figure shrank, and he once again returned to the appearance of a stooped old servant in a green robe. He stood behind Jiang Tian, as if the tragic deaths of over 100 cultivators had nothing to do with him. Xie Yan hurriedly flew up and bowed respectfully. "Young master, patriarch, please enter the secret room for a chat." The situation was very complicated now. The Jade Lake Ocean Wave World and the Dragon Gate Resistance Army had planted spies in each other's camps. The return of the true Dragon Patriarch to the Dragon Gate world was a big deal. Once the news spread, the earth would shake and the mountains would shake. The cultivators of the Jade Lake Ocean Wave World and the Dragon Gate rebels would fight back crazily. Just say it. No one can hear or see it. Jiang Tian raised his hand and waved, activating the forbidden region. A white mist spread out, enveloping the few of them and forming a barrier, immediately blocking out all images and sounds. Xie Tingran and the people in the residence couldn't sense what was happening in the white mist barrier. Is this a forbidden realm or an array? But it's too magical and amazing. This person is so young, but he has such a powerful cultivation. Where did he come from? Xie Yan was shocked and couldn't believe it. But there was no time to think. Xie Yan immediately knelt on the ground and said with tears in his eyes, "This sinner welcomes the return of the true Dragon Patriarch." "Xie Yan, get up. Speak slowly." The true Dragon Patriarch raised his hand and said after killing many traitors. However, Xie Yan did not get up. His face was filled with shame. He buried his head on the ground, trembled and wailed. "This sinner is useless. I watched the disciples of the Ao family being killed, the true dragon sect being destroyed, and the people of this world dying. Patriarch, please give me death." The true Dragon Patriarch's eyes flashed with a trace of regret, then he asked in a deep voice, "Where's that child, Xietinghai?" "Half a month ago, my son argued with the giant Shark King during the court assembly, calling him a traitor. He was killed by Sha Shou in a fit of rage. The giant Shark King is now the king of this world." Xie Yan's eyes were filled with tears as his body trembled as he complained. "Hey, brother Xie Yan, get up. Tenghai died for the real Dragon Dynasty, and you were severely injured. How can I blame you? If you want to talk about crimes, I'm the one who's guilty. If I had guarded this world, Hailan Realm and the Jade Lake Realm wouldn't have been able to kill so many people and commit so many evil deeds." Tears flickered in the eyes of the true Dragon Patriarch. He looked up at the sky and sighed. Then he helped Xie Yan up. After that, Xie Yan calmed himself down and bowed before Jiang Tian, explaining the situation to him. The current situation in the Dragon Gate world was not much different from what they had found in the Kanglan realm. At present, the true Dragon sect and the Ao family's dynasty had been destroyed by the cultivators of Jade Lake and Hailan. Many of their disciples had either been killed or captured. Although some had escaped during the chaos, they were homeless and had lost contact with them. However, the cultivation of the swordsman Fu Hai and the giant Shark King was different from what they had heard before. With the help of Jade Lake and Hailan, their cultivation had increased greatly and they had reached the early stage nascent soul realm in just a few years. The Jade Lake special envoy turned out to be Chen Bahuang, Chen Liuhe's brother and the new crown prince of the Jade Lake realm. He had just come out of seclusion and was very powerful, with many masters helping him secretly. "Master, what should we do now?" Although the true dragon was sad and eager for revenge, it still respectfully asked Jiang Tiandao for instructions. Jiang Tian sat lazily on the roof. He wore a long robe and looked carefree. He took a sip of the Thunderfire wine and muttered to himself for a moment. "Kill the giant Shark King, Sha Shouzhua, the swordsman Fu Hai Sun Bojun and the special envoy of Jade Lake, Chen Bahuang of course. Once the main evils are eliminated, the rest are easy to deal with. But where are the three of them now?" "Young master, it's difficult. Sha Shouzhua is very cunning and they don't have a fixed place to stay. It's hard to find them." Xie Yan knew that Jiang Tian had a special identity and was even the master of Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon, so he bowed respectfully and said, "What?" Jiang Tian looked calm, as if he wasn't surprised. But Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon was already frightened and shouted with a frown. Once a nascent soul overlord decided to hide, it was almost impossible to find them. It was very troublesome to find them with powerful chi concealment arts or dharma treasures. But they could command in the dark or attack your family and friends. That would be very troublesome. Young Master, Ancestral Patriarch, although the giant shark king, Sha Shojua, has been the king for a few years, this world isn't stable. Loyal people often appear to assassinate the three of them. If they can't kill them, they kill their disciples and family. Xie Yan hurriedly said. 7 days ago, Sha Shojua was enjoying the flowers on White Waterfall Island when he was assassinated by the Grand Tutor of the Dragon Gate world, Inluan Dharmaraja. Although Inluan Dharmaraja wasn't his match and his dantian was shattered, he still killed a few of Sha Shojua's beauties and one of his disciples. There are many similar assassinations. So, in order to avoid the assassination, Sha Shojua and the others are very low-key and secretive. They only command in the dark and give orders from behind the scenes. Countless people with lofty ideals hate him so much that their teeth itch, but they can't do anything about it. Inluan Dharmaraja is also dead? Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon was sad and angry, but there was nothing he could do in front of the three cunning people. He could only look at Jiang Tian and ask, Master, the enemy is cunning and doesn't come out. What can we do? Simple. Jiang Tian looked at Long Yanan indifferently and said leisurely, The little princess of the Dragon Gate world is in our hands. Are you afraid that they won't come out? Let's find a spacious place and strip this woman clean. Any man can get close to her. I don't believe that Sun Bojun and the other bastards won't come out to rescue her. What? She's the little princess of the Dragon Gate world? Xie Yan looked at Long Yanan, who was dressed like a maid behind Jiang Tian, and said in disbelief. Ever since the war with Hai Lan and Jade Lake, the Dragon Gate world had suffered repeated defeats and suffered heavy losses. The cultivators of Hai Lan were extremely powerful and specialized in restraining the Dragon Clan and the Demon Clan. They were invincible and swept away all obstacles. The Dragon Gate world was the most powerful Heavenly Lord sect among the many imperishable sects in Hai Lan. It was called the Heavenly Sect. This was the Nine Dragons Emperor technique. When used, one could control the Nine Dragons Dharma idol. It was extremely powerful and unpredictable. Relying on this technique, the Dragon sect suppressed the 9 heavens and 10 earths, sweeping through all directions. They looked down on the entire below sea world for tens of thousands of years, and billions of people prostrated themselves in worship. But this maid before him was actually the little princess of the nightmare dragon lineage of the Halon world. Clearly, she had been captured by this young master and reduced to a prisoner. Where did this young master come from? He's so powerful. In a blink, Xie Yan couldn't help but look at Jiang Tian as if he had seen a ghost. He was also curious about Jiang Tian's background. When Long Yanan heard this, she was so scared that her face turned bitter and she almost cried. She felt chills all over her body and she couldn't help but tremble. He only felt that the current Jiang Tian was inhumane, like a demon. Master, that's a great plan. Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon clapped and laughed. Why did Sun Bojun come out to rescue her after we took off her clothes? I think we should kill her. I'll put a spicy hot pot next to her and eat it. It's more exciting that way. Black's saliva flowed. Idiot. If we want to eat her, we have to take off her clothes first. Jiang Tian said with a smile. At this time, a figure appeared like a ghost. It was Bai Zhe who had broken through the Forbidden Zone barrier and flew over. He landed behind Jiang Tian, bowed and reported, My lord, it's still not enough. We still need to make a lot of preparations before that. What's the problem? Jiang Tian asked. I heard a news in the city. Dragon girl Ao Jiao has been captured, Bai Zhe said. True Dragon was surprised and worried. He said with a trembling voice, That's Ao Bo's daughter. My granddaughter. She's still alive. She's still alive. But the situation is not good. Bai Zhe frowned and said, Ao Jiao and more than 10 descendants of the Ao family have been captured. Sun Bojun plans to hold an auction on the 18 island in a month's time, and sell them off as cultivation vessels or slaves. What a vicious Sun Bojun. Ao Feng, the true dragon ancestral patriarch, said through gritted teeth. His eyes turned red and he almost spat out blood. Female cultivators who were sold as slaves would be humiliated and abused. Their essence blood and essence qi would be gradually extracted by their masters and used as nourishment for the latter's cultivation. In the end, their essence blood and essence qi would dry up and they would become like mummies. They might even go insane and become ghosts. It was a fate worse than death. So, we should save Ao Jiao and the other descendants of the Ao family first, then use Long Yanan as our trump card. Otherwise, the hostages are still in their hands. First, we have to be careful. Second, they also have a bargaining chip to exchange the hostages. We might not be able to force them out. Jiang Tian's eyes flashed. He took a sip of the Thunderfire wine and asked, "Now, where are the hostages?" "That's top secret. I didn't find out either." Bai Zhe shook his head. At this time, ancestral patriarch Takong also flew over like a ghost. He cupped his fists and said, "Master, this old man has received news that the teleportation array between Yaoqi and Hailan to Dragon Gate territory has been opened several times recently. A large number of nascent soul overlords may have arrived." "The trap." "It's another trap." Jiang Tian closed the folding fan in his right hand and slapped it against his left palm, making a crisp sound. He smiled leisurely and said, "Combining these two pieces of news together with the fact that the teleportation arrays from the Heavenly Star Realm, Kanglan Realm, and Chia Realm to the Jade Lake world were deliberately closed, we can infer that they deliberately lured us to the Dragon Gate world and held this auction with great fanfare. They also wanted to lure us out and kill the cultivators guarding the Dragon Gate. If I'm not mistaken, a large number of cultivators from Yaoqi and Hailan should have arrived at Dragon Gate territory through the teleportation array and gathered at the auction site. This is a gathering of the winds and clouds." Chapter 1363. Master, you're really smart. Then, ancestral patriarch Acheron also appeared and whispered. After I received the news, I went to the 18 Island to take a look. A large number of Golden Core cultivators were secretly mobilized and flew over. There were more than 100 of them. There are even a dozen nascent soul cultivators, but that's not all. What should we do? Hearing this, Xie Yan was shocked. His expression changed drastically as he looked helplessly at Jiang Tian. There were so many nascent soul heavenly lords and 100 golden core perfected cultivators. Once they attacked, they could turn half of the Dragon Gate upside down. It was a deadly trap. But if they didn't go, Sun Bojun would torture and humiliate the disciples of the Ao family. It wasn't as simple as humiliating the Ao family. He would be riding on the heads of the loyal cultivators of the Dragon Gate and completely destroying their morale. Moreover, once the news spread out, it would definitely attract a large number of loyal and brave cultivators like Silver Wheel Fawang from the Dragon Gate to rescue them. This was equivalent to sticking out one's head for others to chop off. The losses would be disastrous. But if they really went to the rescue, their chances of winning would be very low and they might even be wiped out. It's okay. Just kill them." Jiang Tian's face was calm. He rolled up his sleeves, revealing his snow-white fist, and said calmly, "That's right. What tricks are you talking about? They're all trash in front of absolute power. No matter how many tricks they have, I'll destroy them with one punch." "What? You still want to go to the rescue? Ancestral Patriarch, that's too risky." Xie Yan almost fell to the ground after hearing that. He then looked at Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon in fear, hoping that he would persuade him. There were only a handful of nascent soul cultivators and 100 golden core cultivators. With such a luxurious lineup, it could be said to be an inescapable net. Even if you were extremely capable, once you entered, you would only have one life left. Even if the True Dragon Patriarch was a nascent soul realm cultivator, he would not be able to handle it. After all, the True Dragon Patriarch was only at the first level of the nascent soul realm. He was loyal and devoted to the Ao family. Of course, he wanted to rescue the bloodline of the Ao family. However, there was a huge disparity in strength between him and the enemy. He thought that he shouldn't act rashly and confront the enemy head-on. Instead, he should find out where the Ao family's descendants were imprisoned and attack them when they least expected it. However, the true dragon patriarch did not try to persuade Jiang Tian. Instead, he bowed deeply and said gratefully, "Thank you for your help, my lord. I will never forget your kindness. This time, we must kill the traitors of the Dragon Gate and the cultivators of the Jade Lake and Hai Lan. Old ancestor, may I know what young master's cultivation is?" Xie Yan was extremely anxious. He quickly bowed and asked. "It can be considered a Jinden," Jiang Tian said calmly. Xie Yan was stunned. This young master was only a Golden Core Realm cultivator. Why did the true dragon ancestor recognize him as his master? What was his background? Young master, even if you have a powerful background, in the end, strength and fists are the most important thing on the battlefield. You're just a Golden Core Realm cultivator. If you go in recklessly, you'll only die. Xie Yan said earnestly. Originally, this kind of competition between dimensional worlds was too high-end, and Xie Yan had no right to interrupt at all. However, the situation was very bad right now. Jiang Tian and the others were walking right into the trap. Xie Yan was too worried and couldn't help but frown and try to persuade him again. "What's so great about a few nascent soul realm cultivators? I can kill them with a wave of my hand." Jiang Tian took a sip of the Thunderfire wine and snickered. "Don't worry. Xie Yan, my lord's power is beyond your imagination." The true dragon patriarch comforted him. Xie Yan heaved a sigh and didn't try to persuade him again. He was loyal to the true dragon patriarch and would follow him to the end no matter what decision he made. Jiang Tian scattered the white fog barrier and landed in the courtyard. He raised his hand, and flames surged out, burning the many broken weapons, broken swords, and messy corpses to ashes. When the sea breeze blew, they immediately disappeared without a trace. "Young master and ancestral patriarch, thank you for saving our lives. We will never forget your kindness." Xie Tingran came with many family members, guards and soldiers and bowed to Jiang Tian and ancestral patriarch True Dragon. "Don't mention it." Jiang Tian nodded and then flicked his finger. Many black soul-swallowing immortal wills were released and deleted the memories of Xie Tingran and the others. Seeing the black tentacles dancing in the air, Xie Tingran and the others rolled their eyes and suddenly fainted. Xie Yan was startled and asked anxiously, "Senior, this is... be careful." Jiang Tian waved his fan and said, "Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon is back today. Today, the true dragon ancestor has returned. Although no one has called out his name from the beginning to the end, it is very likely that some people have guessed it. So, I deleted all their memories of tonight. Don't worry, it won't harm their immortal wills. Some of them are just ordinary people. There will be a lot of life and death battles in the future, so there's no need to bring them along. It's better to send them away." Another series of arrangements. "Young master, this is a good move. I understand. No one will know the identity of ancestral patriarch and you from now on." Xie Yan bowed and said. At this moment, he was even more suspicious. This young master's attitude was domineering like a god, but he was meticulous and meticulous. It was really strange. "Wake up." Jiang Tian snapped his fingers. With a light crack, Xie Tingran and the others woke up. Xie Tingran looked around blankly. Her gaze swept past Jiang Tian and the true dragon patriarch, but she didn't stop for long. Then, she hurriedly walked in front of Xie Yan and whispered, "Patriarch, we can't stay here any longer." Even though her memories of tonight had been deleted, her subconscious was still there. She had almost died just now and her heart was filled with fear. "I know." Xie Yan nodded and quickly dismissed the servants, and guards. Those guards were only at Qi Refinement and Half-Step Foundation establishment, and there were only a dozen of them. Facing Golden Core and Nascent Soul enemies, it would be difficult for them to protect themselves. With Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon, there was no need to bring them along. After everyone dispersed, Xie Tingran looked at Jiang Tian and said, "Who are they? Why are you bringing them along?" Xie Yan sighed in his heart. Jiang Tian's immortal wills were really magical. It seemed that her memories had been completely deleted. He immediately followed Jiang Tian's arrangement and said lightly, "This is young Master Jiang, and this is his follower, Feng Ao. They came from the Class 4 Kanglan world to seek refuge in this world." This Feng Ao was, of course, an alias. It was a homonym of Ao Feng. The identity of ancestral patriarch True Dragon could not be revealed easily. Kanglan world, is it appropriate to bring them along? This world is vast, let them fend for themselves. Before Xie Yan finished, Xie Tingran was disappointed. She looked at Jiang Tian with disdain and said with her immortal wills, Kanglan world was a low-level world near the desolate solar system. It was like a remote village without many overlords, and golden core cultivators were rare. This young Master Jiang looked ordinary. His clothes were luxurious and shiny, but they were all ordinary clothes. His energy was dirty and he didn't have the temperament of an overlord. He was probably only at Qi Refinement and Foundation Establishment. She had thought that some overlord had come to help, but now it seemed that they were just two burdens. How unlucky! Xie Yan was startled. He couldn't figure out Jiang Tian's background, but he didn't dare to disrespect the True Dragon. He quickly said, Tingran, be careful with your words. These two are close to me. They have to come with us no matter what. Just as Xie Yan was about to persuade him again, a group of cultivators in dragon-scale armor suddenly rushed over on dragon horses like a whirlwind. They occupied various strategic locations in the City Lord Mansion and stood with their hands on their swords. They were all at the Foundation Establishment level or even stronger. Who are you? General Shao is here in person. He has suppressed thousands of races. If you don't want to die, kneel and surrender. The cultivators scolded Jiang Tian and the others before opening up a path. It was as though they were waiting for some big shot to arrive. So, a handsome man in a black-colored iron armor of ice, a saber with dragon patterns hanging from his waist, and a blood-red cloak walked over with large strides. He emanated a ghastly killing intent and an extraordinary bearing, and he gave others the feeling of being cold like a mountain and filled with arrogance that shot into the sky. Brother Shao, you're finally here. Seeing him, Xie Tingran's eyes lit up and a look of deep admiration appeared on her face. She quickly went to greet him as if she had seen a real god. What, General Shao? How dare you disrespect my master? Do you want to die? Jiang Tian's expression did not change as he watched coldly. However, Bai Zai's face was filled with anger as he leaped out from the dark and shouted loudly. Bastard! What did you say? How dare you disrespect General Shao? Do you want to die? The cultivators in dragon-scale armor shouted and pulled out their swords. A cold light flashed and the bright sword light illuminated the entire courtyard. Humph! You're so arrogant. Xiaobing's eyes narrowed and a sharp light surged. He let out a cold snort and a murderous aura overflowed from his body. His true essence erupted like a torrential river and pushed towards Bai Zai. Chapter 1364. Seeing that both sides were at loggerheads, Xie Yan hurriedly stepped forward and stopped both sides. Everyone, please don't fight. Young Master Jiang, this is Xiao Bing, the former top general of Ao Bo country. General Shao, these two are cultivators from the Below world. I owe them a debt of gratitude. We are a family. Xiao Bing came from a noble family in the Zhenlong dynasty. His ancestors were all ministers, dukes, generals and generals of the army. Moreover, he was a talented cultivator. He had reached the Golden Core realm before he was 100 years old. Now, he was in the late stage of the Golden Core realm. Before, when the True Dragon dynasty was still in existence, he was highly valued by Ao Bo. He occupied the capital of the dynasty, Dragon Capital, and was responsible for investigating evil cultivators who committed crimes and protecting the safety of tens of millions of creatures. He was directly responsible to Ao Bo, just like the Nine Gates commander in ancient times. He was quite famous in this world. After Ao Bo's death, he led the remaining troops of the True Dragon sect and the True Dragon dynasty to protect Ao Bo. They fought against Sun Bojun, the giant shark king, and the cultivators of Jade Lake and Billow World. They were known as the first army of the Dragon Protecting Army. So you are from the Billow World? Xiaobing showed a look of disdain. He ignored Jiang Tian and the others. Then his murderous aura dissipated. He bowed to Xie Yan and said sincerely, Senior Xie, Sister Tingran, I received news that Sha Qianqiu led a large group of cultivators to threaten you, so I came to help. How are you? Senior, are you hurt? They did come, but I don't know why, but they left. Xie Yan said vaguely. He didn't tell the whole truth, nor did he mention the identity of the true dragon patriarch. Sai, they left. Otherwise, Sha Qianqiu would be dead if he fell into my hands. Xiaobing glanced at the ruins around him. He didn't take it to heart and smiled disdainfully. The next moment his face turned serious. He bowed and said seriously, However, Senior, I've already told you that you can just resign and stay out of this. Sun Bojun and the giant shark king, those two dogs, will never agree to it. You are an old official of 2 dynasties. You have great prestige and are the most representative. Only if you also submit, will he have the power to rally and lead a large number of wavering old officials to submit as well. Only then will he be able to control the others. Indeed. Xie Yan looked deeply ashamed. He shook his head and sighed. I've underestimated giant shark king Sun Bojun's ruthlessness. Senior, this was not a good place to stay. With the giant shark king's vengeful personality, how could he not take bloody revenge? He would definitely come back. Hurry up and come with me to the dragon race's main camp. Xiaobing said sincerely. If the true dragon patriarch hadn't returned, Xie Yan would have agreed without hesitation. However, he didn't dare to make a decision for Jiang Tian and the true dragon patriarch. Instead, he stepped forward and asked, Senior, what do you think? Why are you asking about these two? Seeing this, Xiaobing became even more suspicious. The true dragon patriarch was dressed plainly. His eyes were cloudy and he looked old as if he was about to die. His aura was not very strong. He looked like a mere foundation establishment cultivator. As for Jiang Tian, although his clothes were luxurious, there was no light from any magical treasure. He only had the light of ordinary treasures. They were dim and mottled. They were like a silver spearhead. They looked good but were useless. At first glance, one could tell that they had no background. They belonged to the fringe of the secular world. Okay. Jiang Tian nodded and agreed readily. Jiang Tian was not someone who was arrogant and looked down on others. In fact, the higher Jiang Tian's cultivation base was, the more sympathy he had for the mortal Chen Zi, and the more respect he had for him. Only by remembering that he had risen from the ashes could he maintain a normal state of mind after reaching the peak. Therefore, he could sit and debate with the peerless heavenly venerables and talk to the Khanate cultivators as equals. Those who were arrogant once their cultivation was high and thought that they were above all living things would not be able to reach the end. Moreover, this kind of normal state of mind was especially important in the nascent soul stage and the soul formation stage. Many cultivators thought that when the nascent soul stage was strong enough to connect with the heavens and earth, they would reach the soul formation stage. In fact, this was not the case. In the cultivation world, there was a secret that if one wanted to reach the soul formation stage, he must first become immortal. The Tao of heaven was to take away what was surplus and make up for what was lacking. The Tao of man was different. The Tao of man was to take away what was lacking and provide what was surplus. In the end, the Tao of cultivation was the Tao of man. The Tao of man, ants and weeds fought against the Tao of heaven, fighting for fate and fortune. And if one wanted to reach the Tao, he must remember that he came from the weak. He must have a heart that sympathized with the mortal world and loved the weak. Before reaching the soul formation stage, this small realm of the mortal world was very important. This realm was very special. It was not a realm of cultivation, but a state of mind, a state of mind. It was like wedging an anchor that connected the cultivator to his world. It was like a kite with a broken string. No matter how high it flew, it would still be tied down. It would still remember that it was a human, that it was in the mortal world under the blue sky. It would not completely drift away and eventually fall into the demonic path. Jiang Tian had seen too many cultivators in his previous life who went straight to the soul formation stage without experiencing the state of mind. Because of their unstable Dao heart, they were implanted with inner demons and had no chance to fight for the Dao. In addition, Jiang Tian's operation this time was very ambitious. His basic goal was to defeat the Jade Pool, Hai Lan, and other second-level worlds, take back the Dragon Gate, Baiming, and other third-level worlds, and form a strong fortress to defend Earth and cut off the attack route of the Ruins of Immortality. His highest goal was to enter the Ruins of Immortality and behead the Ruins Emperor, intimidate the twin stars of the South Gate, and prevent future troubles. No matter which goal it was, after achieving it, he needed a group of loyal people who could fight and kill to help Jiang Tian suppress the occupied areas. It was just like how he found Ding Lai, Bai Zhe, and the 4 old monsters. Jiang Tian needed to get in touch with more people to screen and choose the right people. Otherwise, if Jiang Tian just left and flew to the central galaxy and took down these worlds, there would be no reliable people guarding them. The forces of the Ruins of Immortality would still rise from the ashes and pose a great threat to Earth. Everyone, come with me immediately. Only the most important Dharma treasures and Dharma artifacts. Don't bring ordinary treasures, Xiaobing said quickly. Everyone was about to leave. Just as they were about to leave, Jiang Tian suddenly looked at Takong and old monster Mingi, who were hiding in the dark, and said with his immortal will, "Go to the Baiming and Penglai worlds and have a look." "But master, the Jade Pool and Hailan worlds have set up a terrible trap." Takong and Mingi frowned and said with their immortal will, hesitantly. Now that the Dragon Gate had fallen, the Ao family of the True Dragon was in such a miserable state. It was impossible for them not to worry about the Takong Mountain, the Netherworld sect, and their own worlds. However, they were too loyal to Jiang Tian and didn't want Jiang Tian to take risks alone. They wanted to fight side by side with Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian was their hope to defeat the enemy and restore glory. They couldn't let anything happen to him. The Jade Pool and the Hailan worlds are nothing. I can kill the cultivators there, whether they're nascent soul cultivators or half-step soul formation cultivators. Jiang Tian gently fanned himself with his fan. His face was calm as he tried to persuade them, "Go in peace. I can deal with them. Then I hope you can defeat the Dragon Gate and destroy the Jade Pool and the Hailan worlds as soon as possible." Takong and Mingi didn't hesitate anymore. They bowed deeply and then flew away. But this time, Jiang Tian didn't speak with his immortal will. Instead, he spoke with his mouth and everyone heard it clearly. They all changed their expressions and looked at Jiang Tian as if he were crazy. Some of the cultivators who were responsible for guarding even whispered and mocked him. "Is this person crazy? He can destroy the nascent soul cultivators of the Jade Pool and the Hailan worlds with one hand. He's a half-step soul formation cultivator. Does he think he's the ancestral patriarch of the True Dragon sect? What nonsense are you spouting? He doesn't know his place." Emperor Qing, the Lord of the Jade Pool, and Long Baxia, the Lord of the Hailan worlds, have been invincible for thousands of years. This time, they didn't do it in person. They only asked Chen Bahuang and Sun Bojun to be their special envoys to destroy the Dragon Gate world. The 7 islands and 13 sects in the Dragon Gate world all had to swallow their pride. He can kill Emperor Qing and Long Baxia with one punch. What a joke! Alas, it seems that this guy might be from a wealthy family in the secular world. But he definitely doesn't have any real abilities. He doesn't know his place. But since the ancestral patriarch said so, we can only take him with us. I just hope he doesn't cause any trouble. Xie Tingran, who was originally very disappointed in Jiang Tian, saw that Jiang Tian was so arrogant and did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. She could not help but despise Jiang Tian even more. In the cultivation world, the stronger one was, the more they could feel the power of heaven and earth. The more they knew that the world was vast and there were many overlords, the more humble they would be. This young Lord Jiang was only at the foundation establishment level, but he was so arrogant, which meant that he didn't have any real power. Senior Xie, Miss Tingran, is it appropriate to take this guy with us? We are going to kill the overlords of the Jade Pool and Hylon worlds. This is not a game. An old cultivator, Xiaoguang, was very dissatisfied. He asked Xie Yan and Xie Tingran through a mortal will. Xie Tingran's face turned red and she sighed in her heart. Xie Yan also didn't understand why the ancestral patriarch of the True Dragon sect wanted to follow this arrogant guy who looked weak. But he was a wise man after all. He said with a smile, "Yes, we must take him with us. This young Lord Jiang is a great benefactor to the Xie family. He is very important. He, Xie Tingran's future husband." Jiang Tian concealed his cultivation level and restrained his divine aura. It was not worth mentioning at all. Now he had to take Jiang Tian and the ancestral patriarch of the True Dragon sect. Xie Yan had to find an excuse. He could only use Xie Tingran as a shield. Ancestral patriarch, you, what nonsense are you talking about? Xie Tingran stopped and looked at Xiao Bing worriedly. Her face was pale and she wanted to say something but stopped. Huh. When did Xie Tingran have a fiancé from the Kanglin world? Although Xie Tingran doesn't deserve me, she has always admired me. And I still need to use her feelings and Xie Yan's support to the extreme. How can I complicate things? Xiao Bing, who was arranging things, slowly turned his head. For the first time, he carefully looked at Jiang Tian. A few wisps of imperceptible coldness flashed in the depths of his eyes. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.